Chapter 1084. Evil Spirit Mountain, as its name suggested, was filled with evil aura. The vast mountain range was filled with ravines and beasts. If a Lord-level expert moved alone without experience as a hunter, it would be very difficult for them to survive. Tens of thousands of lush trees soared into the sky, blotting out the sun. The ground was covered with spiritual herbs, emitting a dense fragrance. It was late spring, and the rotting aura of the sun made the beasts dizzy. Yi Qinghan silently moved forward. He was not interested in these beasts and only wanted to collect resources. His yin-yang rings were empty, and he did not know how big the space inside the Great Wastelands Monument was. It could probably fit half of the chaotic universe. Therefore, he plucked any spiritual herbs he saw. If he saw something useful, he would take them. However, he did not pluck all of them, leaving some for them to continue growing. He moved very quickly, covering 1,000 miles in a day. Everywhere he went, he plucked more than 90% of the divine herbs. The deeper he went, the more precious the resources. The precious treasures and ores were all taken away by the Great Wastelands Monument. In the depths, the beasts grew stronger and stronger. The stars flickered in the night sky. Yi Qinghan held a dagger in his hand and pounced towards a valley. There were powerful creatures roaming the valley, and they had never appeared before. The aura of primal chaos filled the air, and they were all gifted. When Yi Qinghan arrived at the valley, they discovered him. They bared their fangs and rushed over. Yi Qinghan looked at a cat-type beast in front of him. It was about the size of a leopard and had powerful limbs. Its sharp claws could crush rocks, and its fangs shone with a cold light. Its fierce eyes stared at him as saliva dripped from its mouth. The pile of bloody bones at its feet showed its savagery. Yi Qinghan circulated his divine power, and the golden armor covered his body as he stepped into the valley. The beast pounced over, its sharp claws drawing a cold light in the air as it pounced towards Yi Qinghan's throat. Yi Qinghan was even more forceful. He directly reached out and grabbed the claw that was hurtling towards him. With a ruthless fling, he smashed it into the ground and crushed its ribs with his foot. With a miserable shriek, the beast was on the verge of death. Yi Qinghan pierced the vicious creature's throat with his dagger and took out its demon core. He lit a raging fire and cooked the flesh before sitting down to eat. The divine bird and the little miser jumped out of his body and sniffed the surroundings. They cried out excitedly, "What a pure aura of primal chaos! There are good treasures here!" Yi Qinghan casually threw a few pieces of cooked meat to the divine bird and the little money grubber. He also lured the little chaos beast, the god-slaying eagle, and the rainbow snake out. The entire ferocious creature was devoured by them until only its skeleton was left. Now it's up to you. I want supreme treasure materials. Spiritual elixirs, sacred elixirs that can enhance the physical body. In short, I want all of them, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Leave this matter to us. I guarantee that you'll be grinning from ear to ear, the little miser said proudly. I hope so. Yi Qinghan stared into the depths of Evil Spirit Mountain. This was only the periphery, and Lord-level ferocious creatures could be seen everywhere. Once he entered the depths or entered the eternal cloud sky great world, he was not confident that he could escape alive. After eating the barbecued meat, the rainbow snake did not come out for a long time. It began to wander into the depths of the mountain on its own. The god-slaying eagle returned to its body to absorb the power of qi and blood to increase its strength. Although the god-slaying eagle was loyal, its only regret was that its bloodline level was too low. If it were not for Yi Qinghan, it would not have even reached emperor level. Now that it had been forcefully raised to lord level, if it wanted to become a chaos giant god, it would have absolutely no hope without Yi Qinghan's qi and blood to reverse its bloodline. Even with Yi Qinghan's help, it would still need tens of thousands of years of accumulation. It was unwilling to give up even a second of cultivation time. Yi Qinghan saw this. Although it would be difficult for the god-slaying eagle to help him in the later stages, he was still unwilling to give up on it. The little chaos beast sat on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and bared its teeth. Its little claws were still hugging a supreme-grade divine source. It had become fatter from eating recently and was even more adorable. Let's go deeper. Yi Qinghan led the little divine beasts and rushed into the depths. With the divine bird and the little miser joining in, the treasure hunt became even easier. Large amounts of treasures were taken away by the Great Wasteland Monument. After going deep for 500 kilometers, the light of treasures shot into the sky. The dragon's aura was very strong, and it was even purer than Yi Qinghan's aura. This shocked Yi Qinghan. There's actually a pure giant dragon here? Yi Qinghan led them forward. A beam of divine light shot into the sky and covered the entire valley. It was definitely the birth of a supreme treasure. Good stuff. The divine bird flew into the sky and pounced towards that beam of light. The little chaos beast seemed to be rather interested as well. This made Yi Qinghan even more surprised. What kind of treasure could make the little chaos beast, which only ate primal chaos divine sources and supreme-grade divine crystals, so excited? The mountain peaks around the valley were releasing light as if it was daytime. This attracted many ferocious birds and beasts. Yi Qinghan landed on a mountain peak and looked into the valley. He didn't find any supreme treasure that was emitting divine light. However, the little miser immediately flew down. Following the little miser's trail, he finally found a dragon-shaped divine herb. Its 9 leaves swayed in the wind and emitted divine light that covered the sky. The dense dragon's aura was being emitted from this divine herb. The branches under the 9 leaves were like tree roots that were intertwined and intertwined. They pierced through the mountain rocks. The black branches actually had dragon-scale-shaped objects that covered the divine herb. There were also some tendrils that danced on their own. There were needle-like thorns on them that emitted golden light. There were many white bones under the tendrils, and there was no lack of powerful creatures. After hundreds and thousands of years, their bones hadn't rotted. The deaths of these creatures were definitely related to this dragon-shaped divine herb. What is this? Yi Qinghan asked in surprise. The little chaos beast bared its teeth and growled. It wanted to pounce but didn't dare. It was timid and extremely cute. The divine bird looked at the little chaos beast and seemed to understand. It then explained, "This thing is the 9-dragon root. A divine dragon is buried under this 9-dragon root. This divine herb grew from the divine dragon's body and absorbed the essence of the divine dragon, the essence of the sun and moon, and the essence of heaven and earth. After countless years of bitter cultivation, it has matured. Once it transforms, it is even stronger than the divine dragon. Don't look down on it because it is a plant. The needles on its tendrils have absorbed the evil of the giant dragon. It is the most vicious thing and can effortlessly pierce through the defense of a giant god." Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. Such a powerful divine item grew in the middle of Mount Evil Spirit. It was no wonder that Mount Evil Spirit was so evil. Even if a giant god came, he would probably die tragically without knowing anything about the 9-dragon root. The little miser dared not come any closer when it was 100 meters away from the 9-dragon root. It was rather fearful of the 9-dragon root. Quick, pull out the poisonous needles on it. I want to take a few bites of the divine liquid inside," the little miser shouted excitedly. Yi Qinghan flew to the little miser's side and asked, "Looks like you know about the origin of the 9-dragon root. What can it do?" "Hee, the most quintessential divine liquid flows in the 9-dragon root. It contains terrifying energy. A drop of energy is enough to blow up a half-step lord. If you simply cut off a section of the 9-dragon root, the energy it contains can blow you to smithereens. If you take it out and absorb it, a powerful giant god would have been born long ago and wouldn't lose to you." The little miser was drooling and itching to pounce on it. However, the 9-dragon root waved its tendrils, which could extend more than 10 meters and were extremely fast. The little miser could only stare helplessly. The little chaos beast was also roaring, wanting to devour the essence inside the 9-dragon root. Seeing the little beast's impatient look, the little miser mocked, "If this fellow can devour 2 9-dragon roots, it can enter the growth phase in advance. Its combat strength will then be reflected." Chapter 1085. Divine light soared into the sky, clearly visible from 300 miles away. The 9-dragon root was releasing energy to evolve. There was still a long way to go before it could take human form, but it probably had no chance. Regardless of whether Yi Qinghan acted or not, there were more than 1,000 beasts approaching from the periphery. They were all waiting for the 9-dragon root to evolve successfully. Once it evolved, its medicinal properties would become stronger and it would be able to absorb more energy. Even a high god would explode if he swallowed a mouthful. The 9-dragon root's roots left the soil and a few thorny vines danced, warning the beasts and Yi Qinghan not to come closer. It was also preparing to escape into the depths of the 9-dragon root. This divine object was not restricted by the earth. Once it cultivated to a certain level, it could fly into the sky and escape from the mortal world. Only when it could take human form would it appear in the mortal world. At that time, its cultivation would be stronger than the average giant god and its divine energy would be limitless. Even 3 to 5 giant gods would not be able to defeat it. Wang Wang Wang. Yi Qinghan's imprint involuntarily appeared. The Great Wasteland Monument also began to move restlessly, wanting to take it away. The 9-dragon root seemed to realize that Yi Qinghan was not easy to deal with and constantly retreated. However, Yi Qinghan would not let it leave. His figure moved and blocked it. Being able to escape meant that it had intelligence and spirituality. Yi Qinghan said indifferently, "Don't even think about escaping today. Focus on evolving and follow me. I won't kill the goose that lays the golden eggs." The 9-dragon root waved its thorny vines and smashed towards Yi Qinghan, unwilling to give up. Whooshed at the vines tore through the void and appeared above Yi Qinghan's head. Hua! Kacha! Yi Qinghan grabbed the vines with his bare hands. His gloves released a golden light and divine energy poured out, wrapping around his hands and directly grabbing the thorny vines. The thorns on the vines were immediately broken, unable to break through his defense. The 9-dragon root was shocked and wanted to break free from Yi Qinghan's grip. However, the hands seemed to contain boundless strength. No matter how it struggled, it could not shake off the iron hands. It could not even make Yi Qinghan move an inch. Boom! Yi Qinghan's dragon's might erupted and pressed down on the 9-dragon root. He said coldly, "You better listen to me, or else I'll make you regret being born into this world." The 9-dragon root was a parasite on a giant dragon, so it was afraid of giant dragons. When it was shaken by Yi Qinghan's aura, the thorns on the vines shrank and hid themselves. The other vines went limp, not daring to resist. Umph! Yi Qinghan snorted coldly and loosened his iron grip. The 9-dragon root didn't dare to think too much. The Great Wasteland's monument on his forehead shot out a beam of light and took it away. The interior of the Great Wasteland's monument was a huge space, even a world of its own. Stars flickered, the sun and moon alternated, there were mountains and rivers, and spiritual herbs covered the place. However, the power of desolates was exceptionally rich, and could even change the composition of the spiritual herbs. Every spiritual herb began to contain the aura of desolates. Yi Qinghan could take the items inside the Great Wasteland's monument, but he could not enter it. Otherwise, he would have been able to comprehend the Great Wasteland's Tao scripture with half the effort. Upon entering the Great Wasteland's monument, the 9-dragon root was not alarmed, but delighted. It absorbed the power of desolates with all its might, and the 9-dragon root's thorns became even sharper. The 9-dragon root's defense also slowly increased. The interior of the Great Wasteland's monument was huge and boundless. It was like another space-time universe. However, apart from the spiritual herbs, there was nothing else. These spiritual herbs had been transplanted by Yi Qinghan later on. Previously, there was no sign of life at all. It was like a barren land that had yet to develop. Yi Qinghan had been trying his best to enter the Great Wasteland's monument. Unfortunately, he had failed several times and could only give up. After taking away the 9-dragon root, Yi Qinghan continued to venture deeper. Whenever he saw a divine herb, he would take it into the Great Wasteland's monument. He wanted to plant the entire interior of the Great Wasteland's monument with divine herbs. If not for the fact that he could not take away Evil Spirit Mountain, he could have taken away the entire mountain range. As he ventured deeper, the sky gradually brightened. Along the way, he discovered the carcasses of ferocious beasts. Moreover, the wounds were not caused by a battle between ferocious beasts, but by sword wounds. A sword had pierced through the ferocious beast's head, and even its demon core had been taken away. There were no other wounds. It was a one-hit kill. Yi Qinghan looked at the mutated ferocious beast lying on the ground. It was at least a half-step lord level, yet it had been killed with a single sword strike. Moreover, its blood had not completely dried up. It should have died within the past 3 or 4 days. Someone's ahead of us. Yi Qinghan looked ahead and discovered that there were other ferocious beasts. However, there were no signs of battle in the surroundings. This meant that the person who had ventured deep into this place had a very powerful cultivation base. It was so powerful that a half-step lord-level ferocious beast could not even put up a fight. It had been killed with a single strike. What a powerful expert. The Tua Luo beast is a primordial mutated beast, after all. I can't believe it didn't even have a chance to put up a fight in front of him, the little money grubber said in shock as he looked at the carcass on the ground and recognized its origin. It's a very pure swordsmanship expert. There should be 2 or 3 of them. If they're not from the older generation, then they're either divine sons or divine daughters. We don't have a good relationship with the Holy Land, so it's best to be careful. Yi Qinghan looked at the footprints and discovered that they were very shallow. However, 2 of them were very obvious. There was also one that seemed to be walking in the air. There was only a faint aura. Even Yi Qinghan could not be sure if that aura belonged to a person. The 2 footprints followed the moist soil and headed deeper into the forest. It was almost the same direction that Yi Qinghan intended to head in. Let's chase after them and take a look. If they're enemies, it wouldn't be a bad idea to kill off a few divine sons and divine daughters in advance. A cold glint flashed in Yi Qinghan's eyes as he charged deeper into the forest. Chapter 1086. Yi Qinghan quietly followed the footprints. His body was like a monkey shuttling through the mountains and forests. Sometimes, he would spread his wings like a great rock, diving down from the cliffs and traversing 100 meters. About 3,000 li away from Yi Qinghan, the morning fog had yet to disperse, so it was difficult to see anything more than 100 meters away. One could only rely on one's divine sense to explore. However, in this place, divine sense was different from the outside world. At most, one could only explore a dozen li away. As for anything further, one could only rely on one's hearing. Without loud sounds, it was difficult to determine what was in the distance. Under a mountain peak, 3 figures were running at high speed. They were very young and wore ancient clothes. There was a defensive formation on the clothes and runes were everywhere. If there was a god's son here, he would definitely recognize that these 3 were also from the Holy Land. They were the descendants of the Supreme God, the god's son and goddess of the Nangong family. There were 2 men and 1 woman. The men looked like they were made of jade, and one of them held a feather fan in his hand. He had an elegant demeanor, and his aura was faintly discernible. He walked in the air without leaving any footprints, as if he didn't exist at all. The other man held a clear wind sword in his hand, and his vigorous face emitted strands of divine light. Compared to the other man, he seemed less ethereal, but more dignified. The woman was peerless. Her hair was tied up in a ponytail, and her pure white robe was somewhat dazzling. Her skin was smooth like cream, and her beauty was indescribable. She had thick eyebrows, big eyes, thin lips, and a tall nose. She was very majestic and magnificent. Her slender body didn't have a trace of fat, and her long legs were perfectly straight. Although she had the charm of a woman, she also had the arrogance of a man. The ethereal man was called Nangong Yunlan, the eldest godson of the Nangong family. His strength was definitely one of the top godsons, and he was known as the Supreme Battle King. The dignified man was called Nangong Yuneo. He wasn't a godson, but an orphan adopted by the Nangong family. His cultivation was not inferior to a godson. The Nangong family spared no effort in nurturing him, and he was also loyal to the Nangong family. The woman was Nangong Aoshue, the only goddess of the Supreme Holy Land. She was low-key and arrogant and rarely came out. When the 6 supreme sorcerers were re-established, she didn't appear. Only Nangong Yunlan and Nangong Yuneo went, but they kept a low profile and almost never revealed their cultivation. The three called each other brother and sister. Their relationship was much better than Zixin and Purple Saint, not to mention Ji and Marshall King's family. Big brother, second brother, are you sure? Nangong Aoshue's brows furrowed. Lane. After searching for so long, to no avail. I'm sure there's one, but it's extremely difficult to enter. Back then, the various holy lands were in chaos, and it was difficult to have the energy to enter the eternal cloud world. So, no one went in. Now that the matter has been brought up again, we have to go in first. If we can't snatch the entrance in the future, we won't have the chance to enter the eternal cloud world. Nangong Yunlan's voice was gentle and magnetic, making people feel comfortable listening to it. This time we have to go in. Without the supreme treasure, it's hard to nurture more young experts to compete for the eternal cloud world. Our supreme holy land originally had very few young elites, and if we can't get an entrance, the gap between us will widen and the status of the holy land will plummet. Nangong Yuneo said solemnly. Nangong Aoshue sighed. In this competition, it would be very difficult for the supreme holy land to snatch the entrance to the eternal cloud world. The family had always been low-key, and there were few subsidiary powers and elites. With just the three of them, it would be difficult to carry the burden. For the sake of their clans, these three young experts were truly daring. Without a Tao protector to protect them, they had decided to enter the eternal cloud world to search for precious treasures and godly medicines. Even paramount gods could die in that place. Yi Qinghan had the Great Wastelands Monument, but he didn't even think of entering the eternal cloud world. One could imagine how dangerous it was. We have to nurture 3 to 4 elite kings for the family before we can get an entrance. Otherwise, we will definitely be suppressed by them in the future. If they don't get any benefits, they won't let us in. Nangong Aoshue smiled bitterly. Yes, it's difficult to even talk about cooperation now. We have too few elites, and they don't even bother to cooperate. Even the crazy sect has more elites than us, and they lack a foundation. If they didn't cooperate with the sorcerer tribe, we can complement each other. We provide the foundation, and they will be responsible for sending people to fight. With the 3 of us, we can take 2 or 1 entrance, and at least we won't be suppressed by the other holy lands. Nangong Yunlan looked at the sky and sighed. For the survival of the family, he had racked his brains. He didn't want the family to remain silent in his generation. Is the crazy sect that strong? It's just a newly risen sect without any foundation. How can it compete with the holy lands for resources? Nangong Aoshue was a little doubtful. The Python Shenjiao could take an entrance with his own strength, and no one would say anything. But what about the crazy sect? Nangong Yunlan and Nangong Yuneo were silent for a moment. They recalled the strength of Yi Qinghan and Jiang Jingtian. They were definitely the top existences among the divine sons. Besides Li Feng and Gu Qingyu, Zixin was also determined to help the crazy sect. In addition, there was also Emperor Yi, the inheritor of the supreme god. They also had many individual kings. With such a force, taking down a holy land would not be a problem. Very strong. Especially sect master Yi Qinghan, he gave me an unfathomable feeling. I was unable to find out his true trump card and thought that he was a cripple whose martial Tao origin was shattered. However, the moment he beat the drum, I knew that there were less than 3 people who could defeat him without relying on their foundation. In fact, no one could even defeat him. At most, both sides would be severely injured, Nangong Yunlan said in a deep voice. Nangong Aoshue's eyes widened. She found it unbelievable. There were not many people who could make Nangong Yunlan afraid. They were all the chief divine sons of the holy lands, chosen by the supreme god. She didn't expect that there would be a young man with no foundation in the world who could make him admire him so much. Jiang Jingtian, who is by Yi Qinghan's side, will not lose to me. As for Li Feng and Gu Qingyu, I don't know how terrifying their strength is, Nangong Yuneo said. Then we can talk to them. Maybe there's a chance? It's obvious that the sorcerer race has ulterior motives for joining hands with them. We can talk to them openly. We can share the entrance, and we will also provide protection. The other Holy Lands will definitely not sacrifice so much to join hands with a sect without foundation, Nangong Aoshue said immediately. Nangong Yunlan hesitated for a moment, then said with a bitter smile, "The sixth-generation sorcerer god of the sorcerer race is Yi Qinghan's son. I'm really confused by the current situation. Maybe Yi Qinghan has deceived the second-generation sorcerer god. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so stupid as to promote Yi Qinghan's son to the position of sorcerer god." Nangong Aoshue's pupils shrank. She couldn't believe that an existence like the second-generation sorcerer god would do such a brainless thing and give the position of the sixth-generation sorcerer god to an outsider. Chapter 1087. In the depths of Evil Spirit Mountain, Yi Qinghan watched the three of them from across a mountain peak. He had heard half of their conversation, but he did not know where they came from. However, judging from their tone, they did not have any ill intentions towards the Kuang sect, so he did not want to kill them. The three of them continued to chat. When they mentioned the Aeon Cloud Sky macro world, Yi Qinghan could not help but shrug. The three of them were indeed strong, but they would definitely die if they entered that place. It was rumored that the paramount god Pangu and the Jiutian goddess had died in the Aeon Cloud Sky macro world. If the giant gods did not form a team, they would definitely die. Even if they did, they would not be able to go deep. The Aeon Cloud Sky macro world was a vast universe. As for how big it was, even a paramount god like Pangu might not be able to find its bottom, let alone others. Back then, he was the strongest among the paramount gods. Even the sorcerer god and the great demon god had to step aside. If they had not died in battle, the primal chaos war might not have broken out. Yi Qinghan thought back to the legends of Pangu and the goddess of the nine heavens. Suddenly, a thought occurred to him: the deaths of the realm lord of the great desolation, Pangu, and the goddess of the nine heavens, and the eruption of a war between gods in the Chaosverse. Could it be that someone had set this up? That the primal chaos war did not break out by chance, but by someone? Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. Back then, except for the second sorcerer god and the serpent god, everyone else had died. Even Yushin could not be considered a person from back then. The second sorcerer god and the serpent god obviously did not come into contact with the top level. Unless the paramount gods of back then reappeared, or they found the battlefield of the primal chaos war and the corpses of the dead paramount gods, everything that had happened back then could be explained. Yi Qinghan fell into a daze. He did not understand what this had to do with him. Why did the Great Wasteland Monument acknowledge him? Why did he have memory fragments? Was it really as Zixuan and Jiang Jingtian had guessed? Was he the reincarnation of a paramount god? Or was he the great wilderness domain lord? Whooshed. While Yi Qinghan was absent-minded, his fingers accidentally touched a leaf, making a crisp sound. It was a simple movement, like a breeze, but it attracted Nangong Yunlan's attention. "Who is it? Come out." Nangong Yunlan's fingertips moved and a sharp sword appeared in her hand. She stared in the direction of Yi Qinghan and shouted in a deep voice. The mountain fell into a deathly silence. Swish. Nangong Yuneo and Nangong Aoshue simultaneously took out their gigantic god swords and stared at Yi Qinghan's position. Yi Qinghan's brows twitched. He knew that he had been exposed, so he stepped out. His hair fluttered in the wind, and his face was expressionless. "It's you, Yi Qinghan." Nangong Yunlan immediately recognized Yi Qinghan and couldn't help being shocked. She didn't expect to meet him here. "He's Yi Qinghan?" Nangong Aoshue asked in surprise. "Yes," Nangong Yuneo replied in a low voice. "May I know which sacred ground you three are from? I don't think I've seen you in the sorcerer ancestral land," Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. Nangong Yunlan wasn't arrogant. She cupped her fists and said, "I'm Nangong Yunlan, the successor of the supreme sacred ground. These two are my younger brother, Nangong Yuneo, and my younger sister, Nangong Aoshue. Greetings, Sect Master." Yi Qinghan nodded and said calmly, "So it's the three disciples of the supreme sacred ground. I've been at Evil Spirit Mountain for a few days and accidentally discovered your footprints. I followed you all the way here, but I have no ill intentions." Nangong Aoshue was cold and arrogant. She didn't believe that Yi Qinghan's strength was as her brothers had said. He was already invincible. Without relying on his foundation, he was almost invincible. I seal. Nangong Aoshue suddenly unsheathed her sword. Her green sharp snow sword was filled with sword energy that could seal the 9 heavens, and it wrapped Yi Qinghan tightly. However, before the icy sword energy could get close to Yi Qinghan, a sky-burning fire appeared on his body without any symptoms. It crushed the ice seal into nothingness, but it didn't hurt a single blade of grass. Nangong Yunlan was shocked and quickly reprimanded, "Little sister, don't be rude." Sect Master Yi, little sister is naughty. She might have heard us praising you just now, so she's a little childish and isn't convinced. However, she has no ill intentions. Nangong Yuneo also quickly explained, as if he didn't want to be enemies with Yi Qinghan. Nangong Aoshue was also quite surprised. Her sword attack wasn't at its peak, but it was unexpectedly broken by Yi Qinghan just like that. Not even a single blade of grass was affected. It could be seen how terrifying Yi Qinghan's control was. Yi Qinghan smiled. He had heard their discussion just now. How could he take a child's nonsense seriously? He said, "It's fine. I won't take a child seriously." Nangong Aoshue couldn't help but curl her lips. What did he mean by not taking a child seriously? Wasn't he looking down on her? "I'm not a child. I didn't even use my full strength," Nangong Aoshue said, unconvinced. Yi Qinghan smiled and didn't refute. Not using his full strength didn't affect him much. "The 3 of you are preparing to enter the eternal cloud sky great world? Is there an entrance here?" Yi Qinghan looked around and found that the evil aura was even stronger in the depths. There was definitely something strange inside. It wouldn't be easy to enter. If the 3 of them didn't have supreme divine power, it would be difficult to enter the eternal cloud sky alive. And we are preparing to explore. There is indeed an entrance here, but we are still looking for its exact location. Sect Master Yi, are you interested in going in together? Perhaps we can obtain some unexpected resources. Nangong Yunlan suggested. She wanted to pull Yi Qinghan in as well. Perhaps their chances of survival would be higher. Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment. If he encountered an existence like a desolate beast, unless he used the Great Wastelands Monument, he wouldn't be able to escape. However, whether he could use the Great Wastelands Monument was another matter. The danger was great, but once he entered the eternal cloud sky, the resources there were unbelievable. There would definitely be many treasures like the reincarnation divine metal. Entering was a gamble. If he didn't enter and couldn't snatch the entrance in the future, he would miss the opportunity. There were only 16 entrances. If he fought with so many holy lands, it was hard to say if he could snatch one. Relying on the sorcerer race and the second sorcerer god was obviously not reliable. The sorcerer race's divine sons and daughters wouldn't let him get any benefits. If they cooperated, the supreme holy land was definitely the best choice. If 2 powers occupied the same entrance, everyone would fight with all their might and not scheme against each other. If they wanted to cooperate, there must be a foundation of trust. He had to understand these 3 divine sons and daughters clearly. Yi Qinghan secretly thought and decided to explore deeper. "All right, as long as we can find the entrance, I will accompany you into play. However, we can't go too deep. At most, we will wander around the periphery and take whatever we can find." Yi Qinghan replied. Nangong Yunlan and her siblings were instantly overjoyed. With such an expert joining them, the success rate of this exploration would more than double. "Let's go and enter the depths of Evil Spirit Mountain. The entrance should be nearby." Nangong Yunlan's calm face finally revealed a hint of excitement. The 4 of them looked at each other and rushed into the depths. The evil qi in the depths was even denser. Dark clouds covered the sky, causing one's heart to palpitate. Chapter 1088. Evil Spirit Mountain was filled with an evil aura. There were not many ferocious beasts in the depths of the mountain range, only ordinary wild beasts and birds. They did not even have any spiritual energy. However, there were many spiritual herbs, and their grades were not bad. The lowest grade was at the high god level, and there was no lack of half-step lord level divine herbs. Yi Qinghan was extremely fast. Wherever he passed, he forcefully plundered. His imprint constantly flashed red, and all the divine treasures were taken away. Nangong Yunlan and the others were dumbfounded. Nangong Aoshue looked at Yi Qinghan curiously. She wanted to know the reason, so she asked enviously, "Why can't my imprint rob divine herbs like this?" Yi Qinghan obviously could not say that it was the Great Wastelands tablet's credit, so he just smiled and did not say anything. The four of them ran all the way to the deepest part of Evil Spirit Mountain. The evil aura filled the sky, penetrating the defensive armor and rushing into their bodies. Yi Qinghan's golden armor saint's defense and supreme grade body could not withstand it. He could still feel the cold aura tearing the order of his body apart, wanting to devour his soul. Yi Qinghan was the first to stop. He looked up at the eerie mountain range that crossed Evil Spirit Mountain with a serious expression. "There's something evil in this Evil Spirit Mountain," Yi Qinghan said with certainty. "It's indeed a little evil. It's creepy. It's like something is watching us from the depths, invisible and traceless." Nangong Yunlan frowned. She did not expect this small Evil Spirit Mountain to be so eerie. How dangerous would it be if they went deeper into the Wangu Yuntian? As long as it's not a supreme god, we have a chance to escape. Let's go in and take a look. Yi Qinghan flipped his hand, and the heavy relic appeared in his hand. The golden armor saint's robe covered his body. He looked dignified and energetic as he walked towards the mountain range with firm steps. Nangong Yunlan and her siblings looked at each other. They realized that Yi Qinghan was much bolder than them. As long as it was not a supreme god, he would dare to offend anyone. However, they had no choice now. They had to cross this mountain to find the entrance to the Wangu Yuntian, so the three of them followed him without hesitation. As soon as they stepped on the mountain, Yi Qinghan felt his scalp go numb. It was as if his whole body was being pierced by needles. However, the needles could not penetrate his flesh. There was only a numbing sensation, but there was no pain. However, the three behind him did not have the golden armor saint's robe, nor did they have such a perverted body. They only felt piercing pain all over their bodies, as if maggots were gnawing at their bones. A disgusting feeling enveloped their hearts. Yi Qinghan took out all of his weapons. The four of them stood 2 to 3 meters apart, each guarding a direction. Yi Qinghan walked at the front and swept his gaze across the surroundings. He crossed the mountain peak and looked ahead. He discovered that the dense white bones covered the ground, stretching for thousands of miles and piling up like a mountain. They were soaked in blood and had long since rotted. They were extremely poisonous and evil, enough to kill a giant god expert. The smell of bubbles that occasionally came out was even more poisonous. A gloomy cold wind blew past, and the stench made the four of them want to vomit. Their faces were numb and goosebumps broke out. Fortunately, Nangong Aoshue's back was facing Yi Qinghan. She could only ask about the smell, but couldn't see the visual impact. Otherwise, she really wouldn't be able to stand it. Yi Qinghan looked at the mountain range ahead. Some of the skeletons were as big as real dragons, and some were still emitting golden light. Runes filled the sky, and the patterns were filled with profound laws. These dead vicious beasts must have been overlords when they were alive. Too disgusting, there's something in this blood ditch. The divine bird covered its mouth, feeling extremely disgusted. As for the little miser, she was simply unwilling to see this scene. Nangong Yunlan and Nangong Yuneo were still fine. Otherwise, if it was someone else, the visual impact would be enough to scare an ordinary supreme god to death. It's too vicious. If there's really something here, the thing below must be extremely poisonous. Just the smell alone can hurt us. Let's retreat. Nangong Yuneo was very cautious. He didn't want Nangong Yunlan and Nangong Aoshue to be in danger. If something happened to them, the supreme holy land would no longer have a chance. Boom, boom, boom. The gloomy white bones in the blood ditch rolled over and over. The poisonous smell covered the sky and covered the earth, covering 100 miles and enveloping the four of them. The divine grass in the surroundings immediately withered, and the huge ancient trees followed closely behind. Their vitality collapsed, all of it absorbed by the evil thing in the depths. Yi Qinghan's body emitted overflowing divine light, directly enveloping the other three as well, forming a huge defensive barrier. Divine energy poured out in torrents, as if divine energy was free and inexhaustible. Roar! Blood soared into the sky from the blood ditch. Suddenly, a long black monster leaped out. It was like a dragon, a python, and a flood dragon. It had horns, a tail, scales, and 4 limbs. It was 100 meters long and 10 meters thick. The claws on its thick and powerful limbs were shining with a black light. It grabbed a few golden white bones and directly crushed them. Black Ho! Let's not fight with it, let's retreat. The divine bird shouted loudly. A snake was as big as a python, and a python was as big as a flood dragon. Chapter 1089. Whoosh! A beam of black light blotted out the sky and shrouded the depths of Mount Demon Spirit. Violent gales swept across the area, causing people to feel pain on their faces. Yi Qinghan slashed across He Teng's body, causing sparks to fly in all directions. However, he couldn't tear through He Teng's defenses. He tore through He Teng's body from the neck to the tail, but he was sent flying by the giant tail. Boom! Yi Qinghan retreated frantically with his blade in hand. His elbow collided with the giant tail, and even with the protection of the golden armor, he still felt a stinging pain. This went to show just how strong He Teng was. Bang! Yi Qinghan's body retreated 3,000 meters and crashed into the mountain below Nangong Yunlan and the others. The entire mountain was shaking, causing them to tremble in fear. Just as they were about to rush out to stop He Teng, they saw him twist the tip of his foot, shattering the mountain rocks and charging towards He Teng. Roared! Yi Qinghan let out an inhuman roar. Yi Qinghan's blood vessels surged as his muscles bulged. Draconic scales covered his body as a terrifying draconic aura crushed through space and time as it pressed down on He Teng. Roar! The long blade slashed down, creating a 1,000-meter long blade rainbow. Space and time were directly cut open, but it healed in the blink of an eye. The blade was so sharp that it could destroy anything. The Great Tao was simple, and only speed was fast. Only strength. The power of the Great Tao burst out from Yi Qinghan's body. This blade seemed to want to destroy space and all things. It cleaved down on He Teng's head in the blink of an eye. Boom! He Teng's huge eyes were like the scorching sun that tore through the darkness. However, there was obvious shock in his pupils. He was intimidated by Yi Qinghan's draconic aura and also by the strength of a human. However, his reaction was extremely fast. He swung his head and the horns on his head collided with the blade. Boom! 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 Cracked at the 2 attacks, both capable of shattering mountains and rivers and piercing through the 9 heavens, collided with each other. Roar! He Teng's horn cracked open with a crisp sound. Yi Qinghan and He Teng's bodies went berserk, leaving behind afterimages in their wake as they were sent flying 1,000 meters away. Boom! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan crashed into a mountain peak, causing the surrounding rocks and ancient trees to crumble like rotten wood, unable to withstand a single blow. However, He Teng's destruction was even greater. His gigantic body crashed into a valley like a cannonball, causing the entire valley to shatter into pieces. Thousands of deep ravines were formed, and they seemed to be bottomless. He Teng screamed in agony. Its horn was its weapon and was even stronger than a giant soldier god. However, it had been split apart by Yi Qinghan's blade. It was impossible to estimate how fast and how powerful Yi Qinghan's blade was. The long horn was covered in cracks, and it was terrifying to the extreme. Poisonous blood gushed out from the He Teng's head, corroding the mountain range and causing the forest to wither. Yi Qinghan, who had collapsed in the distance, grinned bitterly. His arm had been blasted apart, leaving only bloody bones behind. There wasn't even a bit of flesh left on the web of his thumb. The recoil was too strong, enough to destroy a giant god. Yet, it had only taken off half of his arm. This already showed how terrifying his physical body was. Hiss! Beast! Beast! Holy shit! Nangong Yunlan and her 2 siblings cursed at the same time. They were stunned by Yi Qinghan's battle prowess and his physical body. How was he even human? He was even more of a monster than a monster beast. Yi Qinghan shook his arm and crawled up from the ground. He tore the 9-dragon root out of the great wasteland steel and forcefully transferred its energy to heal his wounds. Then he stuffed it back into the imprint. Yi Qinghan grinned and took a deep breath. He shook his arm again and clenched his fist, producing a crisp sound. What a powerful Hei Teng. I have the golden armor gloves and the golden armor Saint Robe's defense, which devoured at least 60% of its strength. Yet I was still beaten so badly. If I didn't have the golden armor gloves and golden armor Saint Robe, I would have died here today. Boom. Yi Qinghan crushed the mountain rocks and jumped out of the deep pit. He charged at Hei Teng once again. Hei Teng was frightened by Yi Qinghan's savagery. He had never seen such a violent person. He was even more savage than a wild beast. His strength was frightening and his speed was too fast. There was simply no way to resist. Hei Teng twisted his body and bent his limbs. He arched his body slightly and assumed a defensive posture. However, he didn't dare to take the initiative to attack. His body continued to move toward the blood trench. It seemed that he was preparing to escape. Yi Qinghan grinned evilly and said, "Now that's fun. Don't even think about running away. Come and fight me to your heart's content." Hei Teng was frightened by Yi Qinghan's battle intent. He constantly growled and threatened. His fangs dripped venom onto the mountain rocks and corroded them. Yi Qinghan didn't care about the venom. With the protection of the golden armor Saint Robe, the venom wouldn't do much damage to him as long as he focused his energy on protecting his head. Boom. Hua. Yi Qinghan dragged his long blade and walked toward Hei Teng. The coldness and battle intent in his eyes were getting stronger and stronger. The Nangong siblings worked together to block the mountain range and prevent Hei Teng from escaping into the blood trench. Once he entered the blood trench, Yi Qinghan wouldn't dare to sneak in and give chase. The poisonous gas there could probably poison a paramount god to half-death. Seeing that there was no way out, Hei Teng couldn't help but feel despair. He truly didn't want to continue fighting with Yi Qinghan. If he did, the horn on his head wouldn't be able to be repaired. It was very likely that it would break completely, and his battle strength would drop by 30%. Hei Teng slowly prostrated himself on the ground to show his submission. He didn't dare to provoke Yi Qinghan any further. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. Hei Teng was too afraid of death. He actually surrendered right away. However, Yi Qinghan didn't want to kill this mutant Hei Teng. With him around, this entrance could be considered as being occupied. No one could even dream of snatching it away. Let me ask you, is there an entrance to the eternal cloud sky great world behind the blood trench? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Roar. Hei Teng nodded without hesitation. Indeed, this blood trench was the entrance to the eternal cloud sky great world. No wonder the eternal cloud sky great world was so dangerous. A single entrance could stop a powerful giant god. If it wasn't for Yi Qinghan's freakish physical body, even the 4 godsons might not be able to defeat Hei Teng. Since you've submitted to me, I'll place a restriction in your sea of consciousness. I'll allow you to continue guarding this place. As long as you don't make an enemy out of me, I won't enslave or harm you. In fact, I'll even protect you. Otherwise, I'll skin you alive to make soft armor. Yi Qinghan approached Hei Teng and threatened him. Hei Teng hesitated for a moment. Seeing the cold glint in Yi Qinghan's eyes, he didn't dare to refute. He could only lower his head and allow Yi Qinghan to deal with him. Yi Qinghan forcefully stepped towards Hei Teng's head. However, he was also very cautious. The long saber never left his hand and was pressed against the dragon horn. As long as Hei Teng dared to act recklessly, he would immediately chop off the dragon horn. Hua! The imprint blossomed with divine light. A wisp of imprint carrying spiritual power with the support of the Great Wasteland Tablet directly blasted into Hei Teng's head and firmly occupied the depths of his soul. As long as Hei Teng had any thoughts of betrayal, Yi Qinghan could destroy his soul with a single thought. After dealing with Hei Teng, Yi Qinghan withdrew his berserk force. He clapped his hands and looked at the 3 siblings. He discovered that their eyes were wide open. They couldn't believe that a human could defeat Hei Teng with his physical body. This was simply unprecedented. You're really a beast. You're so savage that you're a bit perverted. Nangong Aoshue blurted out. Chapter 1090. Nangong Aoshue was completely convinced that He Teng was subdued. Not to mention Yi Qinghan's cultivation of the laws of divine abilities, just his physical body alone was already so barbaric that it was a little abnormal. Nangong Yuneo was very arrogant and wild, but at this moment, she was also subdued by Yi Qinghan. He defeated He Teng with his physical body alone. If he used the laws of divine abilities, there wouldn't be more than 5 divine princes who could contend against him. Even if they could, they wouldn't be able to win. The corner of Nangong Yunlan's mouth twitched. She couldn't imagine if she could contend against Yi Qinghan with her Supreme Saint technique. Supreme Saint techniques were unparalleled secret techniques, and there were only 21 of them in total. Under normal circumstances, a divine prince could instantly kill an expert of the same level with their Supreme Saint technique, including their battle constitution. But now it was broken. Yi Qinghan was very calm, as if he had just defeated an ordinary person. However, He Teng could only blame himself for being unlucky. He only had a physical body and poisonous gas, but no secret techniques. If the serpent fought against Yi Qinghan could only run away without using the Great Wasteland Steel. Let's cross the Blood Gully and go to the Wangu Yuntun. Yi Qinghan waved his hand, indicating for the 3 to step on He Teng's body and let him bring them over. Nangong Aoshue was a little timid. She was afraid that He Teng would throw her into the Blood Gully. The poisonous gas there didn't care about one's foundation. It could instantly drown a person. Nangong Yunlan paused and decided to trust Yi Qinghan. This was equivalent to handing their lives over to Yi Qinghan. Once he had the intention to kill, the 3 of them would be buried in the Blood Gully. They wouldn't even have time to use their foundation. Sush. Nangong Yunlan was the first to step on He Teng's back, followed by Nangong Yuneo. Only Nangong Aoshue remained where she was and looked at Yi Qinghan with a bitter expression. You aren't going to throw me off halfway, right? Nangong Aoshue felt wronged. Thinking about how miserable her death was, it truly went against her style. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and smiled helplessly. I don't have any grudges with you. Why would I throw you in there? Hurry up, I'm in a hurry. Little sister, don't mess around. Brother Yi isn't that kind of person, Nangong Yunlan said with a bitter smile. All right. Nangong Aoshue then flew behind Yi Qinghan. As soon as she landed, she hugged Yi Qinghan's waist tightly. She looked up at Yi Qinghan and warned him seriously, if you dare to throw me down, I will definitely drag you down with me. Yi Qinghan's aura stagnated. He clenched his fist and really wanted to punch her down. But looking at her naive and innocent appearance, he sighed in the end and urged He Teng to charge into the blood ditch. Nangong Yuneo and Nangong Yunlan didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Nangong Aoshue's strange posture. They pulled her several times, but she refused to let go. He Teng landed on the blood ditch and swept up a nauseating smell. Yi Qinghan's aura burst forth and divine energy poured out, enveloping the 3 people behind him and forming a huge defensive barrier. Even if He Teng wanted to cause trouble, he wouldn't be able to harm them. The 3 looked at the eerie bones and dark blood water and their faces turned pale. Nangong Aoshue was directly buried behind Yi Qinghan's back and didn't even dare to look. This place was simply too evil. Resentful spirits roared and formed into malevolent wraiths. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws, wanting to devour everyone. However, they were intimidated by He Teng's aura and didn't dare to approach. He Teng shook off the blood bones and a river of blood appeared. It was only 10 kilometers wide, but it was an uncrossable barrier. If He Teng knew divine arts or cultivated bitterly for a few thousand years, perhaps only a paramount god would be able to open this passage to the eternal cloud sky world. He Teng led Yi Qinghan's group and quickly crossed the blood ditch. Yi Qinghan swept up the 3 of them and rushed towards the opposite hillside. Once they crossed the hillside, the primal chaos aura was almost at its peak. It was even denser than the abyss world. Spiritual energy covered the sky and earth, and divine herbs bloomed all over the valley, stretching for thousands of kilometers. Nangong Aoshue finally let go of Yi Qinghan. Her legs were still trembling as she looked at the fairyland-like hill in front of her. Her eyes couldn't help but shine. No one had come here for hundreds of millions of years. The divine herbs here were countless years old, and the medicinal properties they contained were more than 100 times stronger than those in the outside world. Ordinary overgod-level divine herbs were everywhere, and there were quite a few chaos giant gods as well. However, they hadn't found any peak-grade divine herbs yet. For example, the reincarnation blood ginseng was a peak-grade divine herb. Yi Qinghan opened his imprint again, and the great wasteland's monument shot out a beam of light. Wherever his eyes swept, all the divine herbs were absorbed, leaving only 10% as seeds. Swish, swish. Yi Qinghan merged with the little chaos beast, and his speed was extremely fast. He flew across the sky as if he wanted to snatch away half of the mountains. Nangong Yunlan looked at Yi Qinghan greedily snatching the divine herbs. She could only shrug and not fight with him. Instead, she ran to another direction to harvest the divine herbs. Take the good ones. These are divine herbs that have been here for countless years. They are extremely valuable. If we transplant them back to the sacred ground, our tribe will become stronger. Nangong Yunlan was the first to pounce on the divine herbs. She dug 3 feet into the ground and was very careful, afraid that she would destroy the divine nature of the divine herbs. A peak-grade universe ring could store divine herbs and allow them to grow. This was the only peak-grade universe ring in the sacred ground. Its value wasn't just limited to one large region. Even 10 large regions wouldn't be able to exchange for such a universe ring. The speed at which the 3 of them were plundering the divine herbs was less than 1% of Yi Qinghan's speed. The Great Wastelands Monument had practically dug up the ground, and all of it shot into the space inside. As far as the eye could see, there was a large expanse of new soil. It was very fertile. Nangong Aoshue turned around and looked at the ground that Yi Qinghan had swept past. She couldn't help but curl her lips and say, "He really is a bandit. His greed is insatiable. Where in the world did he take the divine medicine to? Why can't my imprint do that?" Nangong Aoshue was still brooding and wanted to know the truth. "Let's not bother about him for now. Let's take a batch of divine herbs first." Nangong Yunlan also didn't understand why Yi Qinghan's imprint could take divine herbs like this. However, there were too many unknown mysteries in the world, and he didn't want to solve them one by one. As long as Yi Qinghan was still cooperating with him, then there was no need to investigate further. Otherwise, he would only offend him. Soon Yi Qinghan had slaughtered his way back and forth. He had taken away all the divine herbs within a radius of 100 miles. Only Cece's inferior divine herbs were left here. As time passed, perhaps they would become a medicinal mountain. Yi Qinghan didn't go to compete with Nangong Yunlan and the others for resources. Instead, he wandered around and searched for the entrance to the eternal cloud sky great realm. This was the key. The key was to find some true treasures inside. Soon, the divine bird found some traces. There was a space that was extremely unstable. Occasionally, it would form a devouring whirlpool that was hundreds of meters wide. It constantly sucked in matter and rushed into a different space. It was impossible to know what was on the other side, but it was certain that it was the eternal cloud sky great realm. Yi Qinghan summoned Nangong Yunlan and the others to study the entrance together. First, they had to make sure that they could come out after entering. Otherwise, they would definitely die inside. "Do you know how to come out after entering?" Yi Qinghan asked curiously. Chapter 1091. Yi Qinghan was very cautious. If they entered but didn't come out, it would be like trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. Nangong Yunlan thought for a moment and said seriously, "According to the ancestral god's notes, we just have to go back the way we came. It didn't say that there would be trouble. However, he is a supreme god and is different from us, so I don't dare to be sure." Nangong Yunlan calmed herself down and said, "Why don't I go in and try? Or catch a ferocious beast to try? It's too dangerous inside. Let Hating go in and try." "Brother Yi, is that okay?" Nangong Yunlan suggested. Yi Qinghan nodded and went to the blood ditch. He called Hating out and let him enter the eternal cloud sky. However, He Teng's eyes were filled with fear. He shook his head vigorously as if he was afraid to go in. Go in. Then come out immediately. You don't have to do anything. Yi Qinghan ordered coldly. He Teng was helpless. He didn't dare to go against Yi Qinghan's will and could only rush into the whirlpool and disappear quickly. The four of them waited quietly. After an incense stick's worth of time, He Teng still hadn't appeared. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but frown. Logically speaking, it was just a quick entry and exit. Why did He Teng take so long? Could something have happened? Nangong Aoshue was a little worried. If a powerful creature like He Teng met with danger just by entering and exiting, then the eternal cloud sky great world was too terrifying. Yi Qinghan and the rest were silent as they stared at the whirlpool. As time passed, their hearts turned cold. If He Teng couldn't return, then it was either he met with danger or he wasn't strong enough to break through the inner bindings and leave the eternal cloud sky great world. Buzzed up with a soft hum, the entire space trembled. The whirlpool at the entrance trembled as if it was hit by something. He Teng's huge head stretched out from the whirlpool but was quickly pulled back. He was powerless to break free from the bindings of the great world. He can stretch his head out alone. The four of us can come back together. Let's go in. Yi Qinghan was very determined. He stepped into the whirlpool and punched the entrance barrier. His figure flashed and disappeared. Nangong Yunlan, and Nangong Yunlan joined forces to destroy the entrance and entered the Wangu Yuntian sky. The vortex tunnel was like a space-time tunnel. Stars flickered and their trajectories could be seen clearly. The four of them lost control of their bodies in the tunnel and kept tumbling around. Whoosh! Flames burst out from their bodies as they charged out of the tunnel, entering the Wangu Yuntian. The aura of primal chaos inside the Wangu Yuntian was exactly the same as it was back in the primal chaos era, or perhaps even better. There were divine herbs and rare herbs everywhere, and ancient trees that reached into the sky were everywhere. Birds flew through the air, and their speed was even faster than the powerful birds outside. A few powerful vicious beasts were roaming about, staring fixedly at He Teng. If it wasn't for the heavy poison on his body, they would have pounced over and devoured him long ago. He Teng was still charging out with all his might, but he didn't dare stay here for long after failing several times in a row. At this moment, he was baring his teeth and roaring furiously. He only heaved a sigh of relief after discovering that Yi Qinghan and the others had also entered. Yi Qinghan looked up at this space that didn't belong to the primal chaos universe. The pores on his body expanded as he absorbed the aura of primal chaos with all his might. It was even more perfect than the saints of the various holy lands. No wonder the various holy lands wanted to fight for the entrance here. Once they occupied an entrance and opened up a territory, the geniuses they nurtured would be much stronger than the other powers. Everything was in its original state. There were only vicious beasts slaughtering each other, but there was no complete destruction of humans. They didn't know the use of divine herbs, so the divine herbs and rare herbs here weren't used. They were everywhere. It's too perfect. It's like a paradise, even better than our holy lands. Nangong Aoshue said excitedly. The aura of primal chaos pervaded the air, and the white fog was boundless. A few wisps of smoke shrouded the mountain peak in front of them. The rosy clouds illuminated everything. If this wasn't a paradise, what else could it be? There aren't any humans here. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but take a deep breath. He was very suspicious. That's not necessarily true. Many giant gods mysteriously disappeared in the past. I don't believe they just disappeared like that. It's very likely that they took root here and survived. As for whether or not they left behind any inheritances, that remains to be seen. This place is too dangerous, and the vicious beasts are too powerful. This danger zone can even kill paramount gods. It's very difficult for humans to survive here, Nangong Yunlan said calmly. Yi Qinghan nodded. He looked at the boundless divine splendor in the depths. There were transformation-grade divine herbs and vicious beasts everywhere, but they disdained to transform. The divine light they emitted covered 1,000 kilometers, benefiting all beasts. That was why the beasts and plants lived in harmony. There was no war, and both sides benefited from each other. Yi Qinghan turned to He Teng and said in a low voice, "Give me some venom and smear it on He Teng's blade. Then I'll send you off." He Teng didn't hesitate. He didn't want to stay in this world for a single breath because terrifying vicious beasts could appear at any time. He didn't know how long they had lived here for, but their cultivation was ridiculously high. He wouldn't dare to enter this place before reaching adulthood. He Teng spat out a mouthful of venom and bathed himself in He Teng's reincarnation light. The venom was completely absorbed into his body, but it couldn't destroy his essence at all. On the contrary, it would increase his offensive power. Once the vicious beast's defenses were broken through, the venom would instantly render them immobile. Boom! Yi Qinghan slashed through the air and tore open the entrance. He Teng rushed out without hesitation and borrowed Yi Qinghan's power in addition to his own to directly charge out of the eternal cloudy sky. He wasn't restrained by any power at all. Let's go deeper. My main target is the primal chaos divine metal and the violet gold divine liquid. Your target should be the divine herbs. There won't be any conflict between us. Yi Qinghan calmly said. Let's go. The four of them rushed towards a rainbow divine splendor. However, they didn't fly and instead ran along the mountain path. Flying in this place was purely suicidal unless one was tired of living. Yi Qinghan and the others retracted their auras and didn't even take out their weapons. They only moved through the forest with their bodies bent and were extremely vigilant. Just as the four of them were moving swiftly, a ferocious black panther swooped down from a mountainside in front of them. Its fangs pierced through the ancient trees and its sharp claws tore through space like tofu. It pounced towards Yi Qinghan, who was at the front. The black panther spat out lightning from its mouth. The swift and fierce lightning hadn't even touched the ancient trees when the leaves of those ancient trees all withered. They were swept up by the wind and filled the sky. Boom! Yi Qinghan fiercely punched out. The dragon's might burst forth and struck out a giant dragon's afterimage. It swallowed the lightning and counterattacked the Black Panther's true body. The Black Panther was frightened by the dragon's might on Yi Qinghan's body. Its sharp claws tore apart the giant dragon's afterimage, but its aura was also shaken. It collided with Yi Qinghan's iron fist and borrowed the momentum to flee madly. It swiftly traveled 1,000 li and disappeared in front of the four people in the blink of an eye. What a shrewd Yao! Yi Qinghan was rather surprised. He had thought that the wild beasts here didn't have any intelligence. The Black Panther was just an interlude and didn't delay the four people's formation. They quickly rushed to the valley that was blooming with divine radiance. The surroundings were emitting the aura of powerful wild beasts. Clearly, the divine herbs had their own life-bound beasts and guardian beasts. Even if there were divine herbs here, they might not be able to take them away. Chapter 1092. The four of them approached the mountain range together, but they stopped when they were 100 meters away. The pressure coming from the other side of the mountain range was too strong. No matter how bright the divine radiance was, no large beasts dared to approach. Every powerful divine beast had their own territory. Unless it was a battle to the death, no one would dare to act recklessly. However, there were powerful divine beasts everywhere. Flying beasts flew past Yi Qinghan and the others, killing each other. Sometimes, it would rain blood, dripping onto the leaves. Yi Qinghan and the others were leaning behind a tree, gazing at the canyon before them. Looking at Nangong Yunlan and the others, Yi Qinghan said in a low voice, "Brother Yunlan, should the two of us go in and scout the path first?" "And all right." Nangong Yunlan agreed without hesitation. He did not want Nangong Yuneo and Nangong Aoshue to be in danger. After all, there was still a gap between their strength. Swish! The two of them bent down and pounced into the canyon. Divine radiance filled the surroundings, causing the spiritual herbs nearby to flourish. Although Yi Qinghan was envious, he did not plunder them. First, he had to determine what kind of divine beast was in this territory and whether he could defeat it. The two of them entered the canyon along the cliff, peeking at the huge canyon. The divine radiance was somewhat dazzling, and it took a long time for them to adjust. They discovered that there was actually a large lake behind the canyon. There were divine lotuses growing on the lake, and they were rich in spirituality. The lotus seeds were dozens of times stronger than the divine lotus in the endless star system. In the center of the lake was the largest divine lotus. The profound radiance covered the sky, and the profound mysteries of primal chaos bathed the sky. It was simply a holy land for divine beasts to cultivate. Without a doubt, if Yi Qinghan could cultivate here for 3 to 5 years, it would be equivalent to cultivating for 3 to 5,000 years outside. That's the 9 Heavens God Lotus. I heard that the profound maiden of the 9 Heavens personal treasure is none other than the 9 Heavens God Lotus. It's a flying type overgod artifact that was remodeled by the profound maiden of the 9 Heavens, and it can contain the universe within. If a mortal were to sit on it, they would be able to ascend and become a deity in a single day. Yi Qinghan and Nangong Yunlan were also very nervous. No one knew what was in the water, but they guessed that it was on par with the serpent. If the two of them joined hands, they might not be able to gain the upper hand. If they used their supreme godly powers, that would be too extravagant. In this vast Wangu Yuntian, how much supreme godly powers would they need to squander? If we only take some of the divine lotuses and lotus seeds from the periphery, the ferocious creature at the bottom of the ocean shouldn't be enraged, right? Nangong Yunlan asked softly. Yi Qinghan shrugged his shoulders, not daring to be sure. If the ferocious creature at the bottom of the ocean was vengeful, not to mention taking some lotus seeds from the periphery, even approaching the lake would cause them to be attacked. I want a 9 Heavens God lotus seed. Yi Qinghan said resolutely. Lotus seeds could be transplanted into the Great Wasteland's ancient tablet. After tens of thousands of years, they might be able to cultivate their own 9 Heavens God lotus. It would be a waste not to take the supreme godly treasure right in front of them. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I'll go scout the area first. The divine bird was incomparably excited. When it saw the treasure, it couldn't move and even forgot about the danger. Yi Qinghan wasn't willing to let this trash take the risk. After all, its strength was too weak. It would be better to let the multicolored snake go and take the risk. At least it knew how to swim. With a thought from Yi Qinghan, the multicolored snake appeared at his waist. It flicked its forked tongue as it looked at the large expanse of divine lotuses. Its eyes were filled with greed, but it didn't rush out without hesitation. This was because it felt that there was a terrifying creature at the bottom of the lake that could threaten its life. I'll stand guard. You take the 9 Heavens God lotus seeds. 3 to 5 will be enough. If there's any abnormality in the water, I'll immediately notify you. You rush up and I'll stop the ferocious creature from chasing after you. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Hissed at the multicolored snake didn't doubt Yi Qinghan's words. Since Yi Qinghan had given it an order, it would carry it out even if it had to die. Therefore, it quickly rushed towards the lake and shuttled towards the center of the lake along the leaves of the divine lotus. The divine lotuses didn't have much hostility towards animals. Even if an external creature invaded, it wouldn't destroy the divine lotuses. Therefore, they didn't resist at all. They just allowed the multicolored snake to approach the main lotus, the 9 Heavens God lotus. Yi Qinghan and Nangong Yunlan approached the lake, ready to provide support at any time. Although the saber and sword in their hands didn't have any fluctuations of divine power, they could erupt in an instant. Soon, the multicolored snake approached the main lotus. The main lotus had its own consciousness. It also noticed the multicolored snake. The lotus leaves swayed, creating ripples in the water. Although it didn't resist, it was warning the multicolored snake not to get too close. A faintly discernible divine power barrier enveloped the main lotus, preventing the multicolored snake from approaching. The multicolored snake tried a few times, but it couldn't break into the barrier and take the 9 Heavens God lotus seeds. Yi Qinghan also noticed the problem. He waved his hand, indicating for the snake to take the divine lotus seeds near the main lotus. Although the effects of using the Great Wasteland's monument to cultivate them weren't as good, it was better than nothing. The multicolored snake didn't hesitate. It opened its bloody mouth and took away a few mature divine lotuses. Just as it was about to leave, a ripple appeared in the water. A claw reached out from the bottom of the lake and grabbed the multicolored snake's tail. Boom! Even though the multicolored snake was as strong as a giant god, It was still effortlessly dragged into the water. The multicolored snake struggled frantically, flipping its body and trying to bite the thing in the water. However, this thing was unbelievably strong. It actually broke through the multicolored snake's defense. The muddy water at the bottom of the lake churned and blood constantly rose. The powerful multicolored snake was actually unable to shake the vicious underwater creature. When the multicolored snake saw the vicious creature clearly, it was actually a water monkey. It was shaped like a human and looked like a water ghost. Its sharp claws could easily pierce through divine weapons. Its body was instantly covered in wounds. It could only try its best to drag the water monkey out of the lake. However, it couldn't break free. Facing this water monkey, it was like a weak baby. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He flew up into the sky and ruthlessly slashed down. His saber chi penetrated the lake and rushed to the bottom of the lake, trying to force the vicious creature out. However, the water monkey's reaction was extremely fast. It dodged the saber chi in the blink of an eye. The resistance of the water didn't affect it at all. Alatek, you're in charge of snatching the divine lotus. I don't believe that it won't come out. Yi Qinghan was furious. The multicolored snake had followed him for thousands of years. He couldn't bear to see it die at the bottom of the lake. Moreover, he didn't even see clearly what had caught it. Sush, 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 sush. Yi Qinghan and Nangong Yunlan each had their own tasks. One slashed at the bottom of the lake while the other slashed at the nine heavens divine lotus. Boom! The waves were thousands of feet high. However, the nine heavens divine lotus suddenly shone brightly. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered and formed a huge defensive barrier in the lake. It blocked Nangong Yunlan's attack and also blocked Yi Qinghan's crazy slashes. Damn it! Yi Qinghan was burning with anger. His veins were bulging. He directly transformed into a dragon and soared into the sky. He held his saber and descended from the sky. He was incomparably ruthless. He directly displayed his peak combat strength. The 5 elements divine light broke through the clouds. The 7-foot heavy saber cut through space and time and ruthlessly slashed at the 9 heavens divine lotus. Chapter 1093. Yi Qinghan slashed with his saber. His physical body erupted, his 5 elemental Tao body, true dragon sacred body, and more than 10 godhoods erupted at the same time. Divine power poured out, and this saber strike was enough to destroy a star system. It was enough to destroy a powerful giant god. It ruthlessly slashed at the 9 heavens god lotus's defensive barrier. Boom, boom, wah wah wah. This, boom. Yi Qinghan suddenly erupted, once again displaying the violence of the inch strike. His right shoulder slightly moved up and instantly pressed down, directly severing the 9 heavens god lotus's defense. He ruthlessly slammed into the 9 heavens god lotus's body. The 9 heavens god lotus's large lotus leaves swayed and revealed a human figure. It waved its hand and suppressed Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan had shattered the defense. He had plenty of strength, but his momentum was insufficient. He flipped his saber and slashed at the 9 heavens god lotus's figure, but he was forcefully pressed to the bottom of the water by an ethereal divine power. Boom! Yi Qinghan slammed into the surface of the water, causing a splash. However, before he could soar into the air, a sharp claw reached out from the bottom of the water and grabbed his right arm. Bang! Yi Qinghan felt as if he was being dragged by a supreme god. He didn't even have the strength to resist as he was dragged into the water. The strength of the 2 thick claws was so great that they actually caused him to feel a dull pain even though he was wearing the golden armor. What the hell is this? Yi Qinghan was shocked. His hand trembled as he put away Boom. He swung his left fist at the water monkey's head. The bottom of the water was stirred up, forming a huge whirlpool. Bang! The water monkey reached out with its other claw to grab Yi Qinghan's left arm. It was fast and ruthless, and its strength was boundless. It actually managed to grab onto Yi Qinghan's arm like an iron clamp. Only then did Yi Qinghan see what the thing at the bottom of the water was. It was a human-shaped monkey covered in milky white fur. Its face was extremely ugly, and its fangs were as long as chopsticks. It was likely a legendary water ghost. Its strength underwater, its strength was comparable to that of a top physical establishing sage. Yi Qinghan's eyes filled with anger. Yi Qinghan's arms twisted. He twisted his arm ruthlessly. He grabbed the water ghost's arms. They were like beasts of a beast. Yi Qinghan's twisted his arm. His eyes were filled. His arms, God's he yes. The multicolored snake was almost killed by the water ghost. Its body was covered in injuries. At this moment, it took advantage of the chaos to escape from the bottom of the water. It didn't dare to fight with the water ghost underwater. Above, Nangong Yunlan's sword moved unconventionally. His supreme sword technique displayed supreme divine might. His moves were extremely crafty as he attacked the nine heavens' divine lotus continuously. The frenzied rumbles in the valley shocked Nangong Yuneo and Nangong Aoshue, who were outside. The two of them flew into the valley together and saw a wave rushing into the depths. Nangong Yunlan was fighting with a figure crazily. With his strength and supreme sword technique, he actually couldn't gain the upper hand. They couldn't help but be shocked. Xiao at the three figures worked together. All of them were supreme sword chi. Their battle prowess was definitely at the top among the divine sons. Their supreme saint technique commanded the myriad of Daos in the heavens. The heaven and earth rumbled, scaring the surrounding overgod-level vicious creatures into fleeing. The nine heavens' divine lotus suddenly rose from the sky and transformed into a human form. It was completely a real person. Its might could destroy the heavens. It bathed in divine radiance, and its gender couldn't be seen clearly. The divine radiance was like a curtain that blocked in front of it, blocking the attacks of the three siblings. Humans, this is the Wangu Yuntian. You actually dare to come here. Are you courting death? A crisp and angry rebuke resounded through the clouds. With a wave of the hand, a divine lotus image descended from the sky, wanting to suppress the three of them into the water. In the depths of the water ghost kept dragging Yi Qinghan towards the lake. This was only a lake in the valley. A long and narrow chasm extended outwards, and outside was the boundless deep sea. Once he entered the deep sea, Yi Qinghan definitely wouldn't have the chance to leave alive. The strength of this water ghost was abnormally strong. Up until now, Yi Qinghan hadn't met an existence that could fight against him with brute force. But today he met one. Boom! Yi Qinghan raised his leg and kicked at the chest of the water ghost. He pulled back his hand, wanting to fight for control with the water ghost. Water was the domain of this water ghost. It was a god and Yi Qinghan was a mortal. With a nimble dodge, it dodged the heavy kick and pounced at Yi Qinghan. It opened its fangs and bit at his neck. Yi Qinghan was shocked. With his hands bound, he couldn't dodge at all. He could only raise his leg again and kick at the water ghost's chin. Boom! The kick missed, and a 10,000 zhang tall water pillar rushed out from the water and into the sky. Yi Qinghan roared in his heart. He grabbed the water ghost's right arm and pulled it towards himself. With a backhand press, he almost broke the water ghost's right arm. The water ghost gave a miserable shriek. With a twist of its body, it turned the situation around and circled behind Yi Qinghan. It wanted to restrain his arms and waist. As long as it could restrain him, Yi Qinghan wouldn't be able to break free. Bang! Yi Qinghan rolled and kicked back, hitting the water ghost's chest. The water ghost finally felt the pain and let go of his arms. Yi Qinghan felt that his arms were about to be crippled. His blood and chi were stagnant and unable to flow. He wanted to rush out of the water, but this damned water ghost was like a ghost, entangling one of his legs. Boom! Yi Qinghan was infuriated. He used his left knee to strike the water ghost's head, but it was blocked by its arm. This fellow's strength underwater was too great. It was so great that all the giant gods were powerless. It was no wonder that this world could cause the supreme gods to fall. They had just entered the Wangu Yuntian and they were already in big trouble. If they went deeper, who knew how many terrifying existences there would be? Bring it out of the water. This kind of water monkey lives underwater. It might be weakened outside. The divine bird shouted in Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. Yi Qinghan suddenly burned the bottom of the water, almost burning the water. The water whirlpool around the water monkey suddenly sped up, wrapping it and Yi Qinghan. The flames outside couldn't hurt it at all. In my name, I command the water of all arts. Yi Qinghan roared. The water in the entire inner lake surged. With him as the base, water rushed into the sky, forming a huge water dragon. It could actually let out a long roar, sweeping up half of the lake water and causing the water level to drop by half. The water dragon rushed to the shore. The water ghost was instantly shocked. It actually mobilized the water of the sea, forming an even more terrifying water dragon, wanting to take it back. Two water dragons soared into the sky, their long tails coiled around each other, tightly entangling Yi Qinghan and the water monkey. Neither was willing to give up. Open! Nangong Yunlan dodged the attack of the nine-heaven god lotus. A powerful sword descended from the sky, directly cutting off the water dragon controlled by the water ghost. Yi Qinghan took the opportunity to sweep the water ghost away and landed on the shore in the blink of an eye. The water dragon dispersed and flowed into the lake. Yi Qinghan had a place to land. He turned his hand and grabbed the water ghost's neck. He realized that the water ghost didn't have the strength it had before. It was as if it was paralyzed, allowing him to do whatever he wanted. Chapter 1094. Yi Qinghan locked onto the water monkey, only to find that it had gone limp without any strength. It was no longer as ferocious as it was in the water. He threw it on the ground and rolled up his sleeves to look at his arms. They were bruised and his blood could not flow. If it continued to tear at him, his body would be crippled. He had to reconstruct his golden body. Once the water monkey was caught, the nine-heaven god lotus stopped attacking. It stared at Yi Qinghan with a pair of sharp eyes. The divine light covering his face dissipated, revealing a heaven-shaking and earth-shattering appearance. It made Nangong Aoshue feel inferior. Human, you better not mess around. This is the Wangu Yun Tian, not the chaotic universe, warned the nine-heaven god lotus. Yi Qinghan's eyes twitched. He shook his arms and ignored the divine lotus. Instead, he rubbed his arms to speed up the blood flow. The water monkey had injured him quite badly. It would take at least half a month for his arms to recover to their peak. Nangong Yunlan and the rest retreated to the shore, no longer tangling with the divine lotus. However, they were still vigilant. The three of them had used a supreme sword technique to attack together, but they could only temporarily suppress the divine lotus. It was obvious that its cultivation was heaven-defying. I just want a few lotus seeds. You guys attacked me first. Yi Qinghan looked at the scarred multicolored snake and could not help but feel anger rising from his heart. I don't know you. Why should I give you lotus seeds for free? The nine-heaven god lotus frowned and retorted. The weak are prey to the strong. This is the rule. There is no reason. Just like how you attacked us. If we were weak, we would not have had the chance to stand here and talk to you. At that time, would you have listened to me? Yi Qinghan retorted forcefully. The nine-heaven god lotus stepped on the surface of the water. Seeing the water monkey limp on the ground and about to be killed at any time, it had no choice but to compromise. It asked in a crisp voice, I will give you 4 lotus seeds. Can you put the water monkey in the water? Double. Moreover, I want the essence of your lotus seeds. You can plant them. Yi Qinghan was incomparably firm. The nine-heaven god lotus had lived for so long. It must have accumulated a lot of divine lotus seeds. If they were planted in the Great Wasteland Monument, it would definitely be beneficial to the Kuang sect. Insatiable greed. If you offend me, don't even think about leaving here alive. I'll give you 5 at most, not even 1 more. The nine-heaven immortal lotus said angrily. Yi Qinghan smirked. He waved his hand and took out frenzy. He raised his saber and was about to kill the water monkey. He did not want to talk at all. But, I'll agree to your request. The nine heavens lotus was flustered and exasperated. She could only agree to Yi Qinghan's request. Give it to me. Don't talk nonsense with me. My will not change, Yi Qinghan said coldly. Whoosh 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 at the nine heavens divine lotus waved her hand and sent out 8 golden lotus seeds. They looked like the most precious treasures with the Upanishad patterns. They were the panacea that could help people ascend to the sky within a day. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and received 4 of them. The remaining 4 were then pushed into Nangong Yunlan's hands. Nangong Yunlan was overjoyed. She hurriedly said, "Thank you, Brother Yi." Yi Qinghan placed them into the great wasteland steel and opened up a large lake. The mark opened up a whirlpool and absorbed a large amount of lake water. The water level dropped rapidly. Some of the ordinary divine lotuses were uprooted and rejected into the great wasteland steel. A huge round lake appeared in the great wasteland steel. The lake water surged. The ordinary divine lotuses released their spiritual energy. They did not feel uncomfortable in the great wasteland steel. Instead, they became more energetic. The 9 heavens divine lotus was furious. However, she did not want to anger Yi Qinghan. She could only endure it. "Is that enough?" The 9 heavens divine lotus asked in a hoarse voice. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and pulled up the water monkey. He stared at the 9 heavens divine lotus. His cold eyes were filled with determination. He said coldly, "Remember, you should only mind your own business. Don't bother about others. You better cultivate here peacefully. Don't go around looking for monsters to take revenge. Otherwise, I will make you regret taking a human form." The 9 heavens divine lotus was stunned by Yi Qinghan's gaze. For a moment, she did not dare to act recklessly. Otherwise, she was prepared to join forces with the 4 overlords to kill Yi Qinghan and company here. Bang! Yi Qinghan casually threw the water monkey into the lake. The moment the water monkey entered the water, it bared its teeth and looked furiously at Yi Qinghan. It wished it could drag him into the water again. "Don't be arrogant in front of me. If I can drag you out of the water once, I can drag you out of the water a second time." Yi Qinghan fiercely stomped and berated. The water monkey was shocked and quickly retreated to the side of the 9 heavens divine lotus. It hated Yi Qinghan to the bone. "Let's go." Yi Qinghan swept away the multicolored snake and slowly retreated. He did not want to force the 9 heavens divine lotus too much. After leaving the canyon, Yi Qinghan coughed out blood. His face was pale and his arms were trembling. He lost control and knelt on the ground. "Brother Yi, what happened to you?" Nangong Yunlan and the others were shocked. Only now did they know that Yi Qinghan was injured. Blurg Yi Qinghan spat out a large mouthful of black blood. Only then did his complexion look better. He leaned against the cliff and said tiredly, "This water monkey is too powerful. Its underwater strength is even greater than mine. It almost shattered my internal organs." Nangong Aoshue took a deep breath and looked at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. She knew how abnormal Yi Qinghan's physical body was. Even He Teng was forced to retreat. However, she did not expect that he would lose to a water monkey in terms of advantage. Just how powerful was this water monkey in the water? "Protect me. I need to recover from my injuries." Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground and took out a small piece of reincarnation blood ginseng from the Great Wastelands Monument. He was not willing to use this reincarnation blood ginseng since he obtained it. He would not use it unless it was a critical moment. However, he had no choice now. If he did not maintain his peak condition in the Wangu Yuntian, he would not even know how he died. The reincarnation blood ginseng was swallowed into his stomach. It immediately turned into a flood of divinity that filled his bones. He mobilized his divine power to heal his internal organs. It rushed into his ashen arm, and his entire body emitted a divine light. Along with the reincarnation divine iron, the great Tao of reincarnation spread out. It was as if hell had descended. The aura of death enveloped everyone. Everyone within a 10-mile radius could clearly feel the aura of death. No vicious beast dared to approach. After half a day, Yi Qinghan's complexion finally regained some color. He opened his eyes slightly and looked at the 3 people guarding 3 directions. He could not help but nod in satisfaction. "Many thanks to the 3 of you. I'm almost healed." Yi Qinghan smiled. "Brother Yi is too polite. I still have to thank you for helping me obtain 4 9 deity lotus seeds. This can maintain the eternal inheritance of my holy land for millions of years." Nangong Yunlan said excitedly. Yi Qinghan nodded and did not stand on ceremony. He began to plunder the divine herbs in the periphery of the canyon. The Great Wasteland's monument shot out a divine light. Nothing could escape from its binding. Nangong Aoshue and the others also plucked many top-grade divine herbs. However, they only wanted the best. Their holy land had many ordinary divine herbs, unlike Yi Qinghan who lacked a foundation and wanted everything. Yi Qinghan looked at the three of them staring at him and could not help but smile. Our family is big and we don't have much foundation. If we take these divine herbs back, we can create many deity experts. These are only mid-grade foundation. Brother Yi, why don't you cooperate with my supreme holy land? I can guarantee that our cooperation will be based on fairness. We will not let the Kuang sect suffer. Nangong Yunlan took the opportunity to suggest. Chapter 1095. Yi Qinghan looked at Nangong Yunlan and knew that he was serious about cooperating. Otherwise, the supreme holy lands would definitely not be able to obtain the entrance to the Wangu Yuntian. When Nangong Aoshue saw the hesitation in Yi Qinghan's eyes, she hurriedly ran over and said coquettishly, "Hey, handsome Yi, don't be so arrogant. Although our peerless holy land doesn't have many elites, and we have very few subordinate factions, we haven't used up any supreme divine power at all. Back in the day, every supreme god left 200 drops of supreme divine power for their clansmen. After all these years, most holy lands only have 100 drops left, and some don't even have any left. Our peerless holy land has only used 30 drops." Seeing Nangong Aoshue acting coquettishly, Nangong Yunlan and Nangong Yunlan couldn't help but shiver. They felt goosebumps all over their bodies. This fellow was very cold. She usually looked like a woman, but at other times, she was even more manly than a man. They had never seen her act coquettishly before. Yi Qinghan's back broke out in cold sweat from this coquettish tone. He hurriedly took a step back and smiled. "I'll think about it. I'll give you an answer after we obtain the Wangu Yuntian. What's there to think about? Just agree to it now." Nangong Aoshue acted coquettishly again. Yi Qinghan took another step back, but Nangong Yunlan couldn't take it anymore. He scolded, "Little sister, speak normally." "Anyway, I don't care. You have to agree now. You can state your conditions." Nangong Aoshue placed her hands on her hips like a tigress, not allowing Yi Qinghan to refuse. Yi Qinghan hesitated for a moment. This cooperation wasn't impossible. The key was the benefits. If we cooperate, we can obtain 2 entrances. We each have 1, and you give Guangzhong 20 drops of supreme holy lands. If we can only obtain 1, we'll share the entrance. Give Guangzhong 10 drops of supreme holy lands. This is my bottom price. Cooperation is cooperation, friendship is friendship. I hope you can accept this price." Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Even a single drop was extremely precious, let alone 20 drops of supreme divine power. Outside forces could only obtain diluted paramount divine power at best, but Yi Qinghan was obviously talking about the purest form of paramount divine power. A single drop was equivalent to 30% of a paramount god's attack power, which was destructive enough to destroy heaven and earth. If a paramount god didn't appear, not even a peak-level battle constitution expert would dare to fight against it. It was almost unrealistic for a holy land to take out so much supreme godly power in one go. It was impossible for any holy land to do so. After all, this was a supreme holy treasure that guaranteed a clan's inheritance. Nangong Yunlan was silent for a long time. He could make the decision on this matter, but he didn't want to recklessly agree to Yi Qinghan's request. The price was too high. Yi Qinghan didn't say anything either. He knew that he was asking for too much, but without paramount divine power, he didn't have the right to speak in the Holy Land. Anything he said would be useless. Yi Qinghan thought about it and decided to pay a little more to make the Supreme Holy Land feel more comfortable. Nangong Yunlan didn't say anything. She didn't want to continue. "I can provide you with a berserk grade giant divine weapon, and I have a golden armor of the same grade. However, you have to provide some materials. In the future, both sides can form an offensive and defensive alliance. I believe that if we work together, as long as a paramount god doesn't appear, no holy land will dare to act recklessly. Nangong Aoshue didn't interrupt anymore. Only Nangong Yunlan could make the decision on this matter that involved so much supreme divine power. Nangong Yunlan smiled bitterly. 20 drops of supreme divine power had already damaged the foundation of the Holy Land. He couldn't make a decision for the time being. Yi Qinghan needed the supreme divine power very much. Only with it could he intimidate the other holy lands, such as the Sorcerer Tribe and the demonic God Mountain. With 20 drops of supreme divine power, plus the one he obtained from Ji Tianling, the second-generation sorcerer god would have to think twice before acting recklessly. I'll help you get a complete supreme holy medicine that's on par with the 9 deities' lotus. Yi Qinghan took a step back again. Now, he was the one who took the initiative to cooperate. Alright, we can cooperate, but let me tell you the truth first. Our supreme holy land has already declined. We don't have any subordinate forces. The only ones who can really participate in the battle are the 3 of us. Otherwise, I wouldn't be willing to risk the eternal cloud sky great world, Nangong Yunlan said honestly. Yi Qinghan shrugged. There were many experts in the Kuang sect. Not to mention him, Jiang Jingtian, Li Feng, Gu Qingyu, and Zixian. There was also Monkey King Chiyan Di Longtian, Emperor Yi, Xia Ziluo, Yan Yunbei, Shen Yan, and the others. Together with the golden armor and giant divine weapon, it would be difficult for the divine sons and goddesses to win against them. 3 is enough. Our Kuang sect doesn't lack experts, Yi Qinghan said calmly. This verbal agreement was settled. They could sign the contract when they got out. Although Yi Qinghan was expressionless, he was very excited deep down. With 20 drops of supreme divine power, he wouldn't have to care about anyone's opinion anymore. The Kuang sect's backbone was really strong. Let's go deeper. Yi Qinghan was determined to go deeper. His goal was still the supreme grade godly metal. The purple gold godly liquid was also the most important part. The 4 of them increased their speed and rushed deeper. The purple gold godly liquid was the essence of supreme grade purple gold ore. It was extremely difficult to find, and the process of forming it required millions of years of accumulation. The purple gold godly liquid in the chaotic universe was very rare. The previous bit was obtained by the beast tamers in the abyss world. In order to get the purple gold godly liquid, they needed the divine bird and the little miser. But suddenly, the little chaos beast jumped out and pointed in the direction of a divine light. It bared its teeth as if it had sensed some treasure. The divine bird appeared on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and lay on its back. It crossed its legs and pretended to be a dog. This fellow is immune to most supreme grade godly medicines. For it to be so excited, it must have found a supreme grade godly ore. It's very likely that there's a primal chaos origin inside. A supreme grade godly ore was a good thing. Now, there were only some godly medicines left in the yin-yang ring. There were no more godly sources or supreme grade godly crystals. In the future, they would have to spend a lot of money to rebuild the Kuang sect. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed as he rushed in the direction the little chaos beast was pointing. Nangong Yunlan and the other 2 also rushed over. The 4 of them had been galloping at full speed for more than 6 hours, but the divine light was still far in the horizon. They had encountered many ferocious beasts along the way, but they were all killed by Yi Qinghan. Not even their bones remained. In the end, the 4 of them appeared on that mountain at night. There were several small mountains nearby. A beam of light shone from above the Star River, bathing the entire mountain. It was tens of thousands of feet tall, and the surrounding godly medicines were lush and verdant. There were red flowers and green willows. It was very beautiful. The faintly discernible aura of chaos was dense. It was like a paradise. Some ferocious beasts seemed to have never seen humans before. When they saw the 4 of them approaching, there was not much hostility. Instead, there was confusion and curiosity in their eyes. There was no lack of adorable godly beasts. However, Yi Qinghan did not think that they were adorable. The more adorable a godly beast was, the better it was at lying. When it came to killing, it would not be careless at all. Chapter 1096. The cute divine beasts were approaching Yi Qinghan and the rest, their bright eyes were darting around. From their outer appearance, they seemed to belong to the same race of beasts. Their entire body was covered in light golden fur, very soft and shiny. They had 4 short legs, and even their teeth were very small and pure white. There was a pair of chopstick-long curved horns on their heads, and a long black and white tail. They looked harmless to humans and animals. Nangong Aoshue was quickly subdued by these cute little beasts. She bent over to hug them, but Yi Qinghan grabbed her neck and forcefully pulled her back. "Hey, what are you doing, hooligan?" Nangong Aoshue furiously asked. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes, pointed at the little beasts and said, "Do you know what they are? Reaching out to hug them like this, aren't you afraid of being bitten until half of your body is paralyzed? Or your face will be bitten until it becomes toad skin?" "Little sister, Brother Yi has good intentions. You don't understand the dangers of the Wangu Yun Tian, can't you ask us before doing anything?" Nangong Yunlan bitterly smiled. "That's right, little sister, don't mess around. If such a peerlessly beautiful face is bitten until it can't be repaired, don't cry." Nangong Yuneo also reprimanded. Nangong Aoshue finally remembered, and her face turned slightly red. She pointed at the little beasts a few meters in front of them, and asked Yi Qinghan, "Then do you know what kind of little beasts these are? I want to raise one." Yi Qinghan shook his head and said, "This is my first time here, so I don't know anything about the ferocious beasts here. I am just reminding you out of goodwill. But they are really cute, there shouldn't be any danger, right?" Nangong Aoshue looked pitifully at Yi Qinghan and her 2 elder brothers. Her small hands kept moving upwards, wanting to reach out and hug them. However, without getting the nod of approval from Yi Qinghan and Nangong Yunlan, she still didn't dare to hug them. At this moment, the divine bird sat up straight and looked at the little beast in front of it. Then, it lost interest and said disdainfully, "This is called the smelly fart beast. It's useless except for farting. Its poisonous gas is very strong and can ignore divine power defense and directly enter the body of a beast or a human. It can make the soul of a powerful beast dizzy and its body weak. Its physical defense will be lowered to the lowest level. Their teeth are very sharp and can easily tear apart a corpse and eat it directly. This kind of thing is hated by people and beasts who see it run away. Its meat is super disgusting, like the meat of a beast that has been dead for hundreds of years. It's incomparably stinky, so this kind of creature has almost no natural enemies." Hearing the divine bird's words, the 4 of them took a few steps back and kept a distance of 10 meters from the smelly fart beast. They really didn't realize that this cute little beast was actually so disgusting. "So disgusting?" Nangong Aoshue whispered in disbelief. "Hee, you can try if you don't believe me." The divine bird sneered. Nangong Aoshue shook her head and didn't dare to go any closer. Yi Qinghan turned his head to look at the divine bird and asked curiously, "What does this thing eat? I want to raise 2 of them." "It eats meat. It is a carnivore. As long as it is meat, it will eat it. The stronger its qi and blood, the better. However, I vaguely remember that it is not very picky." The divine bird replied. Yi Qinghan looked at the 4 smelly fart beasts wagging their tails in front of them. They probably didn't have good intentions and wanted to eat them. However, they weren't confident and wanted to sneak up on them. Shwa! Yi Qinghan's eyebrows twitched and the imprint opened. The Great Wastelands Monument shot out a ray of divine light and directly took it into the monument. The Great Wastelands Monument had a boundless space. There were mountains and forests everywhere, but there weren't any ferocious beasts. Therefore, Yi Qinghan began to capture the weaker ferocious beasts. He grabbed them into the Great Wastelands Monument. In an instant, the area within a radius of tens of li was in chaos. Yi Qinghan had become a bandit, capturing everything he saw and causing the beasts to panic. Starlight shone brightly as a black shadow sped forward. Occasionally, it would sweep past the heads of Nangong Yunlan and the others, chasing after powerful beasts. Sometimes, it would pass through the forest. As long as the imprint on his forehead flashed, it would be very difficult for any ferocious beasts to escape his grasp. His imprint should have an extremely large storage space. Furthermore, it can contain life. I estimate that it is an overgod weapon. Nangong Yunlan guessed in a low voice. That's impossible. There are only 21 overgods in total. How could there overgod weapons be in the outside world? Nangong Aoshue asked somewhat suspiciously. Perhaps it was a storage space that was created when the primordial chaos first split apart. He only managed to obtain it because he was extremely lucky. Nangong Yunlan shrugged. Just as the three of them were discussing this, Yi Qinghan charged back from afar. Once again he returned to this place. Satisfied, he said, "Let's go to that mountain up ahead and see what's inside." The four of them joined forces and sped forward. After roughly an hour, they traveled over 50 kilometers and finally arrived at the foot of the mountain. A towering mountain towered into the clouds. It was 30,000 meters tall. No wonder one would run a horse to death just by looking at it. It was right in front of them, with only 50 kilometers to go. Next to it was an auxiliary mountain peak that was only a few hundred meters tall. That ray of divine light had shot out from this mountain. Perhaps there was something within this mountain that had attracted countless amounts of starlight, causing the divine light to envelop this place. The little chaos beast grew more and more excited. It immediately broke away from Yi Qinghan and charged towards the small mountain peak. Just as the four of them approached the mountain, all of their hairs suddenly stood on end. Even the little chaos beast charged back. Its soft fur had transformed into a porcupine, and it squatted on Yi Qinghan's shoulder, its body arched as it bared its fangs. A low roar shook the entire mountain forest. Instantly, everything fell silent. Countless savage beasts prostrated themselves, and birds fell from the skies, smashing viciously into the mountain forest. Yi Qinghan and the others looked up. Halfway up this small mountain stood a huge purple-furred wolf. It was at least 3 to 4 times bigger than an ordinary wolf. Its pair of red eyes were soul-stirring. It looked down at the four of them from above. Just its aura alone was enough to make the little chaos beast tremble in fear. One could only imagine how strong its aura was. Its thick and strong limbs moved slightly. Yi Qinghan could clearly feel the ground shaking. This creature was definitely one of the most terrifying beasts. It might even be stronger than the transformed demon wolves of the Abyss realm. Most importantly, it was inhumane. It was all about killing. The disgust in its eyes showed that it only wanted to slaughter Yi Qinghan and the others when they suddenly appeared. There was no compromise or deterrence. Boom! The huge wolf jumped down from halfway up the mountain and landed not far in front of Yi Qinghan. The impact caused rocks to fall and the ground to shake. The purple gold wolf god's body is like a divine weapon. Its claws are sharper than a giant divine weapon's, and its fangs can break through the barriers of the universe. It drinks moonlight and starlight, and feeds on purple gold and divine source. It is extremely bloodthirsty, especially on a night with a full moon. It slaughters in all directions, and wherever it passes, not even a blade of grass will survive. It has no weakness. You're on your own now. I'll leave first. After the divine bird finished speaking, it rushed into Yi Qinghan's body and pulled the little money grubber out, wanting to escape. The little money grubber took a look and shouted, "Oh my God, the purple gold divine wolf king. It is the king of the wolves. I will not play with you anymore." Whoosh! The little money grubber turned and ran. He did not even call out to the divine bird. The divine bird was so angry that it cried out loudly. Indeed, they were like family. No loyalty, no morals, and no principles were the traditional virtues of the spirit-devouring divine parrot race. "Master, this divine bird will cancel the contract and go protect my beloved wife. Take care." After saying that, it ran away. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He shouted angrily, "You beast, no loyalty. You're talking nonsense. When have I ever been loyal?" The divine bird did not even turn its head. Its voice came from behind, leaving Yi Qinghan and the others looking at each other. Chapter 1097. You're talking nonsense. When has this divine bird ever cared about loyalty? These words echoed throughout the valley, causing Yi Qinghan to be so angry that his teeth hurt. He didn't even have time to scold this family of weirdos before the little chaos beast tried to run away. Unfortunately, it was a step too late and was caught by Yi Qinghan. You can't leave. You have to fuse with me and increase my speed. Yi Qinghan said furiously. The Nangong siblings looked at each other and were speechless. Nangong Aoshue mocked. Big brother Yi, what kind of weird things are your spirit pets? They can even take the initiative to break the contract and escape when they encounter danger. The corner of Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He had completely lost all his face. However, there was no time to think. The violet gold divine wolf king was already in front of them. Something that could scare the little chaos beast and the weird divine bird away was probably ridiculously strong. It was too late to escape now. Escaping would only leave their backs open for the wolf to attack, and they would definitely die. Yi Qinghan's long saber shook, and dragon blood flowed continuously. A powerful aura broke through the clouds and pressed against the violet gold divine wolf king. Boom. Nangong Yunlan, Nangong Yuneo, and Nangong Aoshue unsheathed their swords at the same time. A supreme aura burst out, especially Nangong Yunlan. Her faint supreme aura forced the wolf king to retreat. Perhaps it was intimidated by the powerful aura of the four, but the violet gold divine wolf king actually took a step back. It bared its teeth and glared at the four of them. The ruthlessness and greed in its eyes were even more obvious. Roared at the wolf king's eyes were suffused with red light. It let out a low roar that reverberated in the mountains, causing eardrums to go numb. The wild beasts in all directions fled in panic, not daring to come close. Kachada with a crisp sound of rocks breaking, the mountain rocks under the wolf king's claws cracked. They were even weaker than tofu and couldn't withstand a single blow. Swish! The violet gold divine wolf king turned into a purple light and pounced towards Nangong Aoshue, who was on the left. In terms of strength, she was the weakest. If it wanted to attack her one by one, it meant that its intelligence wasn't inferior to humans. Swish! Swish! The three siblings drew their swords at the same time, and a rainbow of sword light pierced through the clouds. The supreme sword chi was extremely sharp, shattering the space in front of them. They hoped to repel the purple gold divine wolf king's sudden attack. Boom! Yi Qinghan exploded, and even the mountain rocks beneath his feet crumbled. With the support of the little primal chaos beast, he gained the upper hand by striking only after the enemy had struck. He slashed his blade at the purple gold divine wolf king. Before the blade arrived, the force had already shattered the ground, and a deep ravine ran from north to south. However, his speed was still a step too slow, and the purple gold divine wolf king dodged the fatal blow. Brandishing its sharp claws, it shattered hundreds of sword rays. It opened its bloody mouth, revealing its soul-snatching fangs as it bit at Nangong Aoshue's neck. Boom! Nangong Aoshue held her sword horizontally to block while continuously retreating. Nangong Yunlan's faintly discernible figure streaked across the void. Her sword pierced through the middle of the wolf king and Aoshue. The sword chi pierced through a small mountain and directly pierced a hole in the mountain. However, it missed by a hair's breadth and only rolled up a few strands of wolf fur. The wolf fur was hard and emitted a purple gold divine radiance, blocking the sword chi. Open! Yi Qinghan's saber style was not finished yet. The downward slash was forcefully twisted and turned by him, slashing horizontally at the God Wolf King's four limbs. The God Wolf King finally didn't dare to force Nangong Aoshue anymore. Its body twisted, and the rainbow saber light streaked past its body, attacking Nangong Aoshue. The saber could be retracted, but the saber light couldn't be retracted. The saber light instantly arrived at Nangong Aoshue's neck. Just as it was about to strike her body, Nangong Yuneo pounced and forcefully pulled Nangong Aoshue's body down. The saber light swept past her head, cutting down thousands of ancient trees and flattening a few hills. The entire place was in a mess. Yi Qinghan was also shocked. The destructive power of the berserk madness was too strong, and the area of effect of attacking this vicious beast was too wide. It could attack the three of them at any time. Without a choice, they could only give up on the berserk madness. After retrieving the berserk madness, Yi Qinghan clenched his fist with his bare hands. The golden armor saint robe radiated with radiance, and the golden armor gloves bound his iron fist. He clenched his fist fiercely, and a crisp sound could be heard. He stomped his foot, and his domineering body rushed forward. Using his knee and elbow, he struck at the purple-gold divine Wolf King at the same time. Boom! The purple-gold divine Wolf King was infuriated by Yi Qinghan's provocation. It waved its huge forelimbs and clawed at Yi Qinghan. The sharp cold light of its claws could be seen in the void. Boom boom boom, that Yi Qinghan's elbow struck the wolf's claws, and his knee struck its abdomen. However, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his elbow, as though it had been pierced by the purple-gold divine Wolf King. The impact his body endured was comparable to a peak attack from a top-grade giant god. Yi Qinghan's body was smashed to the bottom of the mountain. However, the purple-gold divine Wolf King's body also flipped over and lost control. Nangong Yunlan's sword pierced its spine. However, a purple light rushed out from the Wolf King's body and directly offset half of its power. The remaining power sent it flying, and it rolled over a dozen times on the ground before coming to a stop. Swish, swish, swish. Nangong Yuneo and Nangong Aoshue launched over a dozen attacks at the same time. All of them struck the Wolf King's body, but it was useless. Its defense was even more terrifying than Yi Qinghan's golden armor saint robe. The giant god weapons couldn't penetrate it. Boom! Roared at the purple-gold divine Wolf King was pushed back over a dozen meters. Not only was it not severely injured, but it also stimulated its ferocious nature. It leaped up from the ground and waved its forelimbs to claw at Nangong Aoshue. Yi Qinghan rushed up from the deep pit and punched down. Flames covered the sky, forming a huge flaming divine dragon. The surrounding air was scorched and emitted an unpleasant smell. Boom! Yi Qinghan's attack was ultimately a step too late. The purple-gold divine Wolf King's claws struck Nangong Aoshue's divine sword, and the dignified giant god weapon was directly smashed apart. Her body was like a kite with a broken string, and she was sent flying hundreds of meters away. 5 elements, heed my command. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, 5 dragons, come forth. Yi Qinghan followed closely, and the 5 dragons accompanied his fist as it blasted towards the purple-gold divine Wolf King. The purple-gold divine Wolf King had no choice but to give up on chasing Nangong Aoshue. It turned its head and let out a roar that caused the mountains and rivers to collapse. The heaven and earth Yuan Qi dispersed, and the 5 elements heavenly dragon turned into nothingness. Yi Qinghan's facial muscles were contorted, which showed how powerful this roar was. Fuck. No wonder those 2 bitches wanted to escape. Yi Qinghan lost control of his body and retreated dozens of steps. He couldn't help but curse. This guy couldn't be resisted. Great desolate imprisoning heavenly finger. 1 finger extinguishing heaven and earth. Boom, boom, boom. Yi Qinghan twisted his body and stabilized himself. He formed seals with both hands and pointed in the air. A huge fingerprint appeared and blasted towards the purple-gold divine Wolf King's head. The purple-gold divine Wolf King wasn't easy to bully. It waved its huge claws and actually tore apart Yi Qinghan's great desolate imprisoning heavenly finger, causing the fingerprint to disintegrate. Swish, swish, swish. Nangong Yunlan and her siblings attacked from the side, obstructing the purple-gold divine Wolf King. Great desolate imprisoning heavenly finger, 2nd finger shattering mountains and rivers. Boom, boom. Great desolate imprisoning heavenly finger, 3rd finger shaking 8 directions. Yi Qinghan poured out his divine power and pulled out the 9 dragon root. After continuously withstanding several hundred attacks, it finally recovered after spitting out blood. Its anger was overflowing, and it madly bit at Nangong Yunlan, wanting to kill her in 1 strike. Because his attack was the strongest and most ruthless, he caused the most damage to it. Roar! There was a deafening roar. It made the 3 of them dizzy. But a god's son was a god's son. Nangong Yunlan's strength was almost on par with Yi Qinghan. He activated the Soul Defense Divine Artifact in his Sea of Consciousness and blocked the soul attack. He swallowed a drop of diluted supreme god power. Man and sword became one. Boom! Nangong Yunlan was faster than lightning. The divine power in his body poured out in an instant. The primal chaos in the powerful supreme god power was completely exhausted. Boom! The divine sword easily pierced through the defense of the purple gold god Wolf King. It pierced into the forelimb of the huge wolf. Roar! The huge wolf roared. The injury made it crazy. It slapped Nangong Yunlan's back. Bang! Nangong Yunlan's internal organs were nearly shattered. Although he was powerful, he didn't have Yi Qinghan's physical body and was nearly killed by the violet gold divine Wolf King. However, the violet gold divine Wolf King wasn't willing to give up. It bit the sword hilt with its fangs and pulled it out, allowing blood to spurt out like a waterfall. It pounced towards Nangong Yunlan's back, but its speed and strength were significantly reduced. Between life and death, Nangong Yuneo and Nangong Aoshues started to go crazy. They even risked their lives to block the attacks of the purple gold god Wolf King. Yi Qinghan had only made some minor adjustments. He could not recover to his peak state. It was too late. If Nangong Yunlan died, the three of them could forget about escaping. Dragon transformation. Roar! Yi Qinghan suddenly transformed into a huge dragon. His huge tail attacked indiscriminately, including the three of them. If they were hit by his tail, they would not die. However, if they were bitten by the huge wolf, they would definitely be swallowed. The purple gold god wolf roared. It gave up on killing the three in front. It turned and waved its claws. It tore through the shackles and grabbed the dragon tail. The dragon scales with strong defense were pierced through and were torn off. Yi Qinghan roared at the sky, feeling a heart-wrenching pain. He swung his huge tail viciously and flung the violet gold divine Wolf King to the highest peak. The violet gold divine Wolf King collapsed a large part of the mountain, feeling dizzy and furious. However, Yi Qinghan was also like a madman. He pounced towards the peak, wrapping around the huge wolf with his 100,000 zhang golden body. Yi Qinghan wrapped around the huge wolf and constricted it along the peak, wanting to strangle it to death. The purple gold god Wolf King was being strangled to the point it couldn't breathe. Its body was almost torn apart. Its sharp claws were locked and couldn't tear through the dragon scales. However, its fangs were much sharper than divine weapons. They directly bit through the dragon scales and injured Yi Qinghan's bone marrow. Roar! A wolf and a dragon were roaring mournfully. Both of them were going crazy. Whoever went soft first would die first. There were no exceptions. The entire mountain peak was entangled by the huge dragon Yi Qinghan had transformed into. The towering peak was on the verge of collapse and would be snapped at any moment. The huge dragon head circled around countless times before swooping down. It wanted to swallow the purple gold god Wolf King. The powerful body of the purple gold god Wolf King was almost deformed from the strangulation. It screamed tragically but still struggled bitterly. The two fangs were constantly smashing into the mountain and finally created some space for it. Just as it was about to break free from Yi Qinghan's restraints, he suddenly revealed his true form. He grabbed the two fangs with both hands. His veins were bulging and he was extremely ruthless. It was as though he wanted to break the fangs. Roar! The purple gold god Wolf King was on the verge of collapse from the pain. Tears streamed down its face and its teeth were chattering. It looked at Yi Qinghan ferociously and did a flip. It crashed down from the mountainside with Yi Qinghan. Boom! 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 The man and wolf crashed into the ground, creating a huge crater. The god Wolf King kept shaking its head, trying to fling Yi Qinghan away. However, Yi Qinghan was like a sticky candy. His legs were wrapped around its neck and his hands were grabbing the fangs. His strength was even more terrifying than a wild beast's. The multicolored snake found an opportunity and found the weakest part of the jaw to bite down. The little golden crow also rushed out. The flames burned the heavens and the valley's divine fire soared into the sky. It almost burned the purple gold god Wolf King. The purple gold god Wolf King immediately suffered a fatal attack. It was most afraid of top-grade divine fire and its biggest weakness was its jaw. After being attacked at the same time, it gave up struggling and gave up its two biggest fangs. It pulled the multicolored snake away and flung Yi Qinghan away before charging into the depths of the Wanggu Yuntian. Boom! Yi Qinghan was flung away. His two fangs pierced into the rock and drew a long ditch. He crashed into a rock and felt dizzy. His eyes were filled with stars. The four of them climbed up from the ground in a sorry state. There was fear in their eyes. This Wanggu Yuntian was indeed terrifying. They had only gone to 2 locations and were almost killed twice. What would they encounter if they went deeper? It was impossible to predict. Master is mighty. Master has descended from the heavens. This divine bird knew that you would definitely win. He used the power of desolates to protect it, afraid that it would be eaten by the ferocious creatures inside. Let's go in and take a look at the purple gold divine liquid and the purple gold meteoric iron. Yi Qinghan looked at Nangong Yunlan and the others and suggested, "Okay." Nangong Yunlan slowly got up. Her back was still aching. She estimated that she had only recovered 50% of her battle strength, maybe even less. The four of them walked towards the shining mountain. The divine bird led the way, and they reached the middle of the mountain. They found a huge cave. The purple gold Xian Qi inside was dense and surging, as if it was going to soar into the sky. As soon as they entered the cave, they realized that the surrounding mountain rocks were just a distraction. The inside was filled with purple gold meteoric iron. The value of this mountain was comparable to that of a super force. The purple gold divine liquid is inside. There is a huge water tank that is filled with divine liquid. Judging by its viscosity, it is definitely a supreme-grade divine liquid. The divine bird wanted to make a contribution and hurriedly led Yi Qinghan into the cave. The god-grade Xian Qi kept drilling into their bodies. Right now, even a piece of wood would be turned into purple gold meteoric iron. As soon as they entered, Yi Qinghan saw a stone tank that was about 10 feet in radius at the bottom of the cave. Large amounts of purple gold divine liquid were flowing in it. It was indeed the purple gold divine liquid. Moreover, its viscosity was several times stronger than the beast tamer lineages. It was the essence of the purple gold divine liquid. There were a few drops of purple gold divine liquid beside the stone tank. It was obvious that the divine bird had arrived earlier and taken away a portion of it. Yi Qinghan glanced at the divine bird indifferently. He realized that it was acting as if nothing had happened and was pretending not to know anything. He didn't want to be entangled with it anymore. After all, it would still be his in the future. "Let's split it," Yi Qinghan said calmly. Nangong Yunlan had put in a lot of effort in this battle. If it weren't for the 3 of them, Yi Qinghan would have died a long time ago. He wasn't the kind of person who would give up on friendship when he saw a treasure. Therefore, he let Nangong Yunlan and the others go first. Chapter 1101. The ancient sky was thick and majestic. Purple chaotic airflow surged in the blue sky and white clouds. Occasionally, birds would swoop down to kill ferocious beasts. Sometimes, they would seize the air and cause blood to splatter across the river. The deeper they went, the more powerful creatures there were. Yi Qinghan and the others ate some healing pills and recovered almost all of their injuries. They left the messy mountain and went back the way they came. After traveling for about 3 days, they returned to the canyon. The 9 deities' lotus was right in front of them, but they were powerless to fight for it. They could only look at it and sigh. Yi Qinghan gazed into the depths of the canyon and thought, "It'll be mine sooner or later." Divine creatures that had taken human form weren't considered humans. They wouldn't treat themselves as humans either. They wouldn't show any mercy when fighting. Yi Qinghan naturally wouldn't treat the 9 deities' lotus as a human. That kind of divine creature didn't care about humans at all. Yi Qinghan and the others chose to continue toward the entrance. There were no more powerful creatures ahead, so the 4 of them obviously sped up. Behind them, the winds and clouds surged. The surging shock waves crushed many forests. A rainbow pierced through the clouds and turned into a bolt of lightning that blocked out the sun's rays. Following that was a gale that could destroy space and time. Even the mountains and ancient trees were uprooted. Yi Qinghan and the others' figures clearly swayed. When they looked back, they couldn't help but be shocked. A black dragon's tail swept through the shackles of space. It was definitely an adult dragon that was equivalent to a peak giant god. Moreover, it was one of the strongest existences below the paramount god level. They could clearly see it from thousands of miles away. It was like a deep river that pierced through the sky. Two powerful creatures radiated divine light in all directions. They actually used their bodies to block the powerful tail's attack. However, they still retreated, unwilling to be entangled. From time to time, powerful birds would pounce on the two. They were comparable in strength to the violet gold divine wolf king, but their defenses weren't as terrifying. It's the second-generation sorcerer god and the serpent god. They actually ran into the depths, or passed through another entrance. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. An existence that could force the serpent god and the second-generation sorcerer god to retreat was simply unimaginably powerful. Screech! With a mournful roar, another black shadow sped through space. It spat flames from its mouth and enveloped the second-generation sorcerer god and the serpent god. The serpent was forced to revert to its original form. It let out a long roar that shook the forest and suppressed the other ferocious creatures. However, it could not suppress the black dragon. Chapter 1102. At the exit, the atmosphere was tense. More than 10 terrifying beasts were about the same level as the purple gold wolf king. Two of them were even on par with the purple gold wolf king. If they went out of control, they could tear Yi Qinghan and the others to pieces. Senior, please give me the dragon egg. This is non-negotiable. I'm a human, but I'm also a giant dragon. My wife is the inheritor of the Chaos Giant Dragon. She's the leader of the giant dragons. I'll allow you to do whatever you want, but you can't destroy the unborn child of the dragon race. Yi Qinghan was resolute as he reached out for the black dragon egg. What if I don't give it to you? The second sorcerer god's aura surged as a drop of pure supreme divine power appeared in his hand. He smirked and asked coldly. The black dragon was worried that the second sorcerer god would destroy the black dragon egg. Otherwise, the second sorcerer god would have used his supreme divine power long ago. Yi Qinghan clenched his fingers, and a drop of supreme divine power appeared in his hand. The pure aura of the Tao of Karma covered the sky. It was almost on par with the supreme divine power in the second sorcerer god's hand. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Nangong Yunlan and her siblings activated their supreme divine power at the same time. The terrifying supreme divine power destroyed everything and suppressed all beasts. However, it also locked onto the second sorcerer god and the serpent god. The black dragon roared as it looked at them with disdain. Although it didn't have any supreme divine power, it wasn't intimidated by it. At least it could ensure that Yi Qinghan wouldn't attack first. The dragon race would always be the dragon race. They wouldn't kill their own race. The second sorcerer god didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be so resolute. He wouldn't allow him to take the black dragon egg away. Qinghan, second sorcerer god, calm down. Don't do things that will hurt your loved ones and please your enemies. If both sides suffer, the sorcerer race and the insane sect won't be able to survive in this chaotic world. The serpent god said with a frown. Senior, I respect you. So, if you want to borrow my seed, I will agree without hesitation. However, don't go overboard. If you take the black dragon egg away, how many innocent lives will be affected? Maybe I have nothing to do with them, but my territory will be attacked. This is something I won't allow. Insane sect doesn't have any foundation. We won't be able to stop the Wangu Yuntian's rebellion. I won't be able to bear with such an outcome. Yi Qinghan said coldly. The second sorcerer god. The second sorcerer god. However, the second sorcerer race and saint. The second sorcerer divines. Divine. Impossible. Not even one. You need a sacred medicine that can restore your vitality. It doesn't have to be a black dragon egg. Yi Qinghan said firmly.